Let's see if she takes off. She is. Well, it says I'm live. Hot darn, I guess I am live. Well, anyhow, here it is a Saturday night. If things work out, possibly next Saturday night I'll be up here with the Jay and Joe. Just thought I'd throw that out there if you didn't know. Talked to Jay earlier tonight. So that's a possibility. We don't plan out, we'll have to wait and see how it works out because the hour thing is a real problem amongst us, and I don't blame him. I mean, Jay gets the worst end of the deal. Okay, he really does. So, because of our times that we're apart, considering Jay's over in the United Kingdom, Joe's over in Australia, I mean, this sort of makes a problem. And I'm over here in the land of Nazi America. So, but with that being said, I guess we can talk a little bit about TFL topics and NWO topics. Why not? Because I found it interesting earlier with Dave. I did. Hey, I appreciate that, Steve. Yep, I'll be here. Just call in, put in the PIN number, and you'll be in. But Dave left a comment that I found very interesting, and he's correct about it. It's nothing but the real ID. That's why they're making these changes. It's about taking further rights and locking you down. It's to control your travel. It's one of the very first steps towards really locking you down so that you're not allowed to travel. They always start it in baby steps. That's what the real ID is about. The real ID is about locking Americans into America. Telling you can't fly. And that's going to progressively get worse because pretty soon it don't matter if you want to drive. No, you have to have permission from your owners. That's right. Better not have no strikes against you. That's right. Just like, Google has strikes. Yeah, that'll be against American people. You better not have strikes against you because you won't be able to drive. You won't be able to leave the town you're in. They'll have us all locked down like the perfect little slaves you are. That's what that's going to come down to. And people don't want to believe that.
They'll have us all locked down like the perfect little slaves you are.
You have to mute the sound.
Come down to.
Mute the
sound. Hey, Bill, can you hear me?
Yeah, did you mute the sound on that?
It is, yeah, I just muted it.
Okay, there you go. I hear you just fine. So how's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm Steve from Texas, and I just wanted to call in and I wanted to thank you for sending me those T-shirts.
Oh, hey, that was no problem. I done that for a lot of people on the day that I had them made. So when you asked, I told you what I had, and I had no problem sending it to you.
Yeah, that's real awesome because I don't know one single YouTuber that would ever do that, but I gave one to my brother. Both me and him, we watch, you and Steve Hoka, and we kind of keep our eye on the manosphere,
Yeah, well, the division is great, unfortunately, and there's a lot of men all over the world living it, so,
Yeah,
I guess
very true.
one of my biggest bugs with society is the fact that we have a society that's geared on worshiping one gender and slamming and male bashing the men, and nobody's standing up for men. Steve Hoka's words was so true because it literally is women love women, men love women, women hate men, and men hate men. And that's literally what you're experiencing.
Yeah. I actually really like that one live stream that you put up about being TFL within a marriage, because I've been recently I'm almost 30 now. So, I mean, a lot of my friends are getting into marriages, and you kind of get to know people who are in marriages, and I just can kind of notice how these men, how they become, how should I say this? It's like they're being pushed around by their wives a lot,
Well, basically, what you've got is you've got the gender with all the power, knowing they have all the power, and you have control freaks. It isn't that it can't go the other way because I've actually witnessed both ways in my life. And you'll have some men out there that are determined and old school, and they're just as wrong as the women are, who want to control the woman and tell her everything she can and can't do. But in today's society, we have a real big fluctuation of more women doing it than men. And and the thing about a relationship, first off, is it's supposed to start off with friends. That's what dating's about. Okay?
Mm.
And then after friendship, of course, it can move to more. But most people don't know that. They think it's all about game and they want to just get together to get together. And of course, love is sex, and when love isn't sex, and sex has been moved to the front of the list, and selfishness and self centered, people busy looking out for number one or playing a game, being a fraud and a fake. And then when they get together, they can't figure out why they don't get along. Huh?
But isn't it true that even back in the like 50s and 60s, that marriage was more based on, it was more like an economic arrangement?
It was somewhat that way, but that was not all cases. They like to push that narrative that that's really what it was all about because they want the division. But in reality, if you went back into even the 20s and 30s, you found out that more back then, more people knew what the hell they were doing. And real love does exist, okay? And a couple would fall in love. But people don't realize that real love actually exists, and how would you in today's society? Because the majority of
Uh-huh.
people don't even know what the hell they're doing. Because real love does exist, but real love can only be found between a man and a woman who first becomes friends and then becomes best friends and then becomes more than friends.
Right.
If
But I mean, I think that's become more and more rare because the most married couples I know, it just seems to be like an economic arrangement.
Well, yes, it is being more and more rare. It was deliberately done, and it's worked out great for them. Divide and conquer, and the man is the primary victim. Both genders are victims of this. People got to realize that it is both genders that are victims, but the man is the primary victim, not the woman. But then in today's society, you can't be a victim. You're a man. That's not allowed. If you're a victim, that means you're weak. That means you're somehow, there's something messed up about you, and that's not true at all. Never has been, but that's what our society pushes.
Right? It's
It's
social engineering.
it is. It's all push. It's all social engineering, and that's what you're witnessing. Because in reality, it was deliberately done. And it's not nothing's 100% across the board because there's not very many. That's for damn sure. But there are a few people out there left that actually knew what they were doing and got together for the right reasons. But they're outnumbered big time. Okay, by a bunch of idiots that don't know. So
Yeah. Because my friend, he just recently, him and I, we went to his girlfriend's parents' house, and he's in a marriage and he owns a big lake house, and he's a doctor and he's a really rich guy. And I was talking to him, and he said something along the lines, he was like, yeah, you kind of have to do what your wife asks you to do. That's just what marriage is.
yeah,
And
in
I'm just
today's
thinking,
society, we went back into the 50s like you were talking about. It got flipped around in the 30s and the 50s where the man was shooting the order and the woman kind of had to do what the man said. And it doesn't matter which way you flip it, it's wrong. It's just straight out wrong. You can't figure out why relationships don't last. Well, the first big clue is right there, slapping you in the face. We're both human beings. Both men and women alike have feelings, emotions, wants, and needs. We're human beings, and humans have needs. And when you call a guy because he's a man, oh well, you're needy. Okay, well here, let me deprive you of food and water. And when you're bellying about, you're hungry and you're thirsty, I'm gonna call you weak and call you all the names that you're calling guys who are needy. That's right, ladies. That's what we would do to you. We would do the same thing on to you because you were hungry and thirsty. You don't have needs. Why would you need water? Why would you need food? See, and I know that sounds insane, but in reality, we all have every human being out here, whether it doesn't matter what your gender is. Okay, your gender has
Yeah.
nothing to do with it because the reality is, see, she could never have a baby without the man, and he could never have a baby without her. And the DNA in the baby is half half if you ever looked. But everybody wants to blow that off. They want to turn their head and ignore the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a very sad reality, you know. But it seems to me that more and more men who are married nowadays, they I guess they become TFL within the marriage and just accept living with a controlling wife.
Yes, that's correct because they spend so much time of their life trying to get this person to meet somebody, to be with somebody. And the successful relationships, from my own experience in life, normally comes from somebody that's not looking for somebody to begin with. And and they met maybe you was over at your brother's house or you were at a friend's house, you know what I'm saying, and you meet somebody that's hanging with a family member or at a friend's house with maybe one of their brothers or sisters or something. And normally this is when people meet that way, they wind up with more of a successful relationship because they meet in natural environment, natural ground. They're not looking when they meet. When you go out and try to look to meet, you actually wind up sending off body language signals you don't even know you're sending off. Okay? And because our world's so messed up, I mean, look at women. They want to put you in a friend zone. And if you're friend zone, they don't want anything to do with you. They're running off with somebody else, right?
Hmm.
But the friend zone friends, well, that's the foundation. So that's like me taking a house and building it on quicksand and then wondering why it keeps sinking. I mean,
Yeah.
because you're talking about the foundation. The foundation of a relationship is based on friendship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's true. I did have several girlfriends in my life, but it was never I never really became friends with them first, because I guess I was always worried about being friend zoned, or at least I felt that if I would become friends with her, then I would be friend zoned, and then I wouldn't be able to, have sex with her.
Then that's the other big flaw that people have because you get with
Mm,
somebody and never became friends because you're so worried about being friend zoned. And then, oh, but I won't be able to get naked with her. So then your tension goes straight to sex, okay? So there's no way any relationship could ever make it based on what you just told me. I don't care who you are, there's not a relationship that would make it. And if you're a guy who gets married in that type of situation, well, then I guess it's because you enjoy being abused, you enjoy drama, you enjoy being nothing more than a slave. Well, but you don't have to worry about that much longer because, Dave's here. And with the comment Dave left earlier, is so correct, even though it's off topic, it's not off topic because in reality,
yeah,
people are enslaving themselves and they don't even know it because they're not
yeah,
awake. They're not awake to what's going on around them. You have to really realize what's going on in your world, in society, and it's been going on to ever understand how we got where we're at and why TFL is here.
right. So it's probably better to be TFL than to be TFL within a marriage.
Well, yeah, if you're TFL in a marriage, you're living miserable because here's what you got. You got drama, drama, drama. Think about it. You got a woman that's not only drama, 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 but you go out there and break her butt and work, and even if she's holding a job, she looks at you as the man, and you're still supposed to be the provider.
Yeah,
So she controls your money. You could be put in a situation where she's waiting outside your job for your paycheck or your money's going into a joint account and you're not allowed to touch the account because she controls the money. But don't worry, you work 60 hours this week. She'll give you $20 for your allowance. Okay, this is
But why do women nowadays feel entitled to their husband's money like that?
because they're
I
still
mean,
they.
because it didn't used to be that way.
Well, no, this is what we've done. We've created gender roles. Okay, mankind created gender roles, not DNA. Okay, you know, mankind created gender roles, and they pushed this, and they pushed it for years. And you'll get people, well, back in the caveman day. Well, I'm sorry, we haven't lived in the caveman days in uh, years. I mean, centuries after. I mean, you know how far ago it was the caveman days? Give me a break. That's just retarded, okay? First off, no human being owes another human being their living. But because we're worshiping women and we've got, like the moon goddess, it's a goddess, it's a female. What do you think Monday Forever Alone Monday stands for? The moon god, goddess. He's worshiping women right in your face under the flaws of Forever Alone. Most people don't even see it because they're not awake enough to see it.
Right.
And the sad thing about it is the reality is this: nobody deserves to be worshipped. We're all human beings. Nobody's above nobody else. I don't give a shit what your position is. And you know where Dave was so correct about the real ID? Because that's exactly what's coming in. This is why they're making the rules what they are, you know. People don't realize, like I said earlier when I did that video earlier today, when I walked into the driver's station to get to switch my license over, they've already got me on record because I've lived, this is my home state. Okay? I've lived here more than once over the years, and the license I have in my pocket from Iowa, from the state I'm in here in Iowa, expired at the end of 2017. So it's been, you know, expired for a little over maybe a year and a half, a little better, right? In around that area. It's been expired for, and they bring it up on the computer. They see my name. They see the license that was issued. They see every time I surrendered the license and got a new license in the state. They know who I am. I had to prove all of this stuff before I ever got a license. I had to show Social Security and birth certificate and all that crap, right? Well, here I am.
Right.
They're looking at me like I need to show it all again. Okay? I need to show everything all over again because somehow I'm not me. So, of course, they don't like me because just like I am here online, I let them have it. You know, I
Mhm.
immediately wrote, first thing I says to him, my brother was even standing next to me, and I stood right there, and I says, oh, that's right. I forgot I'm a terrorist. That's what I told him. I forgot I'm a terrorist. Oh, you should have seen their faces when I said that. And you think I care? Hell no. I told him I was a terrorist. Then I went in and talked a little bit about 9/11 for him. I gave them a little lesson and walked out the fucking door, right? When my brother come out, he says, wow, they said, boy, you must have an interesting household with him in it.
Yeah, that's
So,
crazy.
you know, this is where we're at. I don't hold back. People don't understand me when it comes to TFL. It comes to NWO. It comes to the stuff that I spill on video. Hey, I don't give a shit where I'm at. I could be in a park. I could be in Walgreens. I could be in the courthouse. I could be anywhere, man, and I'll talk about this shit just as open as I am right here. And I'll call people out just as open as I do right here. It don't matter. I'm not on cam. I'm not being videotaped. That's who I am. I'm not going to be your damn patsy or your slave. Okay? And I don't care who
Yeah.
you are. I'm not going to walk in there because, well, these are guards and these people are working for the state and blah, blah, blah. Oh, they have a position and I better not say nothing. I just better bend over and take it. No, I will not just bend over and take it. I will shove it all the way up here, you know what.
Right. Right.
Okay, this is where I'm at. But you know, and yeah, I get a lot of criticism from people because there's not many men out here that are standing up for men.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know in how far I agree with the whole NWO and social engineering. I mean, you might have a point, but what I do definitely notice is that there are just a lot of men out here that just uh feel that they have to get married and they just end up in marriages where they get pushed around by women, and women take control there. It's like the women have become the men
Well, that's
and the men have
exactly
become
it.
the women.
Well, I flew a thing for a while, and I'm sure you've seen it, where I talked about everything's upside down, everything, inside out, reverted, upside down in society. Well, this is
Yeah.
all. This is if you really open your eyes and pay attention, you will see that's the actual God's honest truth. Everything. It's not just the dating. So when you say it's more like they're being the man, well, you would be correct. You're not off at all with your assessment. You're right on spot. That's because it's upside down. But it was still freaking out. It was still wrong, even when it was men in control, because we don't belong controlling one another. We belong learning how to get along and becoming best friends and more than friends and remembering where that relationship came from. That's where you
Yeah.
belong. And when you can't do them things, your enemy wins, okay? And it is divide and conquer. When I bring up the real ID, that's people can call conspiracy theorists all they want. But when they get the big iron shoved up their damn crack of their, fucking gun at the back of their head, then they're going to be screaming, how did we get here? Because this is what's happened over and over and over throughout history. The only difference is this time we have more technology involved, okay? And we have the dumbing down that took place for years. People think they're educated. My last job before I became disabled, people get out of high school and they come in there, start just out of high school with you know, and when they had to do the simple math at the end of the shift, they're looking around for a calculator and they're pulling out their phones and using the calculator. And I said, so what's wrong with this scratch paper in your brain? Well,
Hmm.
I don't know how to do it that way. Well, there's the problem. You graduated school, and there's your problem. You want to criticize me about my spelling, but you can't even pick up a piece of paper and figure out simple arithmetic.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the whole world is upside down, man. It's pretty scary. But you know what else I think? I think that all these married men that are in TFL marriages, I guess we'll just call it that. I think that deep down inside they know that something's wrong.
They do, but
So,
unfortunately, I think they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to stand up because think about it.
yeah.
If you spend quite a long time trying to get somebody in your life, to get them in your life, you become so fearful about losing them and being back to where you're at and all this time alone again. And then, of course, you want to fit in with everybody else, right? You have that need to
Yeah.
fit. You have that need to fit in, which is a normal human need. Okay,
Yeah.
so of course that's going to make things even harder because I'm not going to cut somebody down because they want to fit in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
No,
just
I absolutely agree.
I just wish people would understand what they're really doing because I'll tell you what, you would better off to be alone than you are to be with somebody that's going to do nothing but make your life hell.
I agree.
I mean,
I mean, I myself personally, I know that I'm only going to marry a woman if she becomes my best friend. But I mean, I'm not banking on it. It might happen, it might not. I don't know. But like I said, I'm 29 now, and I mean, I would love to get married, but she has to definitely be, my best friend. But it's
there.
very hard to find in this day and age. It's
Oh
very
wait,
hard.
you're correct. I'm not going to go against anything you just said because you're right on spot. See, that's where it has to start if you want a successful relationship. You have to become friends, you have to become best friends, and let it move naturally by itself to more than friends. And when both parties do that, you'll actually find real love. And if you do find real love, then you have to remember where it came from. And it's not about telling each other what to do. It's about listening to each other and respecting each other's feelings and understanding that you don't always agree.
Yeah.
And that's
But
where,
a lot of people think, a lot of people say, even like dating coaches and a lot of like red pill dating coaches and stuff, they all say that marriage is basically based on um for the man, it's access to sex basically, and for the woman, it's basically financial security, and that they believe that both members of the marriage union should understand that and respect that, and that's how it is. But I don't agree with that at all.
I never have, because what you're saying is that I'm sorry, but what that says is that you yourself, being your gender you are, you automatically owe her living
Yeah.
based on you have a penis. You
Mm.
owe her everything because, see, think about gender roles. Gender roles taught everybody that the man was the provider and protector. Well, provider. There it is right in your face, provider. When people really take this seriously and they start pushing that, well, then by God, you're nothing but an ATM machine. I don't know, where would you like me to drill the holes in your feet so I can anchor you down? Because you don't want to be stowed, do you? And then, of course, where are we going to put the money? You want me to shove it up your ass, or you want me to shove it down your throat? Okay? So, I mean, seriously, the reality is you're a human being. You're not a damn ATM. You're not. There's nothing but usury. What kind of
Yeah.
relationship are you getting out of usury? You're not. And why do
Yeah.
you want to put yourself in that situation? You're going to come home and have a life of hell. Okay? You worked all day long. You come home. She had a bad day. Well, guess who she takes it out on? Ta da!
On you.
That's right.
Yeah.
So everything
Yeah.
she takes out on you. She takes out on you. And then, of course, you're at fault. Of course it's your fault. You know why it's your fault? You have a penis. Oh, she can never be wrong. No, she's never wrong. You know why she's never wrong? She has a vagina. And this is the
Yeah.
BS that you experience on a regular basis. And then you got all these people wishing, man, I'm so depressed because I haven't got somebody to abuse me.
Yeah. 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 I think unfortunately a lot of men believe that marriage is the answer to their happiness.
That's
And even if it means being controlled by a woman and being used, as you say, so
well,
that's unfortunate.
the mean they think, oh yeah, that's my happiness. Well, I beg to differ. You're not going to be happy. You're going to be miserable. You're going to
Yeah.
gladly come home, and by the way, you'll become TFL. Because you know what? She's tired of you. She's already undressed you a bunch of times. She's through with you. She don't need you. She got what she wants. But maybe she wants your money while she's looking for your replacement. Don't worry. When you're at work, she'll be out there looking for your replacement. It won't be hard as soon as the guy's making more than you make. And he's a different body to undress behind the scene. You know, she's
Hmm.
already undressed you enough times. She's through with you. You're a hamburger. She's just a wrapper. You're the wrapper of the hamburger. And she's just going to crumble you
Yeah.
up and throw you away anyhow. But don't worry, that's just perfectly normal behavior. No, it's not perfectly normal behavior. It's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very sad reality, and I think that it's. See, I'm half European and half American, and I lived in Europe pretty much my whole life. And I recently only moved here to America, but already now I can see that it's the same in Europe and America.
It is. It's actually around the world. This is why, I was
Yeah.
talking with Jay, and he's over in the United Kingdom, and I talked to Joe. And if you listen to Joe, who's over in Australia, and you listen to Jay, who's in the United Kingdom, and then if you met Dimitri, who's over in Ukraine, see, this is no
Yeah.
accident. This is worldwide. So a lot of these guys, this is why I get on with Winston Wu, because he don't want to tell people the cost of going overseas. He never tells them the cost, but yet he'll promote the go overseas. And when what are you running to? You're running to. I mean, people say, well, I don't know about NWO, but okay, hold on. I've got all these top leaders that you've been listening to for decades now, right back to George Senior Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, right back to
Yeah.
right back to even his dad. That's how far back this goes. that have told people, openly told people in their face. Even Barack Obama and Joe Biden told people right in their face. Okay? They tell you right in your face, and people, well, now I don't believe that because I don't believe in listening to what's being said to me when they're telling me the truth. That's really what you're saying. And because I don't want to believe it, then that means that I don't have to believe it because it scares me. If I had to know the truth, I don't know. I don't want to believe that. So I want to believe my own belief. Even if my own belief means I'm going to end up with a gun up my ass when it's all said and done.
Right. But my question is, I mean, if marriage has always been this way, do you think it's ever going to change?
No,
That
I
marriage is
don't
going to
see.
revert?
As long as you have people who want to keep repeating history that are control freaks and psychopaths running you, it's not going to change. If you go back far enough in history to the real Western days, you'll find out back then that the women had to approach and impress the man. Yeah, it was completely turned around the other way around. The women were doing the
Yeah.
approaching. Okay, but
Yeah, I know. A lot of women were like, "Oh crap, I got to find a man that I can financially depend on for the rest of my life," and then they just go and marry anyone or the
well,
first
yeah.
man they can find,
Well, the men were
and now
having,
it's kind of different
yeah, the
because
men
now
had the
men are
choice.
simping.
Yep.
Yeah,
Back in that
yeah,
real Western days, men actually had the pick and the choice. Okay, because the woman
that's
was looking
crazy.
for the provider, and now here you are in our day, and the man's the simp, fucking doing all the approaching and pressing. I mean, everything's been flipped around, and people just can't see it.
Well, I mean, I hope it will change eventually. I mean, I would say probably not in the next decade, but I feel that more and more men are waking up. And I also know that a lot of men who are in miserable marriages and TFL marriages, I believe that they know it deep down inside and it's probably eating them up. And, eventually they will wake up and snap.
Well, you know what Jeff Ashton just wrote would be correct. It's more than that. Women were brainwashed into hating men. Well, of course they was. The last 30 years of mainstream media, television set slamming and putting men down and slamming and putting men down. Of course they was. The little girl or little boy grew up next to a TV set, watched the same stuff. The message has always been that the man's the perpetrator, that the man's the monster, the man's the villain. It's always been that for
Yeah.
at least the last 30 years. Yeah, these women were programmed to hate men.
Yeah, I'm reading Jeff's comment now. He says if you listen to music from the 50s and 60s, women used to love men, and nowadays, if you listen to the music, it's women. They kind of make fun of men and just bash them and just say that they're independent and that they can do it all alone and they don't need
That's
a
it.
man.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
the and you got Hollywood to thank for that big time. And, you got your government and Hollywood to thank for this. Okay, but it is divide and conquer. It doesn't matter what people say. That's what this is all about. Until people wake up and smell the real truth and start caring about one another and want what's right instead of what's wrong, you're not going to change a thing and you're not going to see an end. The only thing you're going to see is self destruction of mankind. You know,
yeah. Because another thing I notice on these dating apps on Tinder and Bumble, sometimes I'll read their biographies with some girls that I match, or just even some girls that I'm looking at, and I keep seeing the same thing. They all say, "I own a house, I have a bachelor degree or a master's degree, I'm successful, blah blah blah," and they'll say, "My biological clock is ticking, and now I need to find a man." And I mean, it's just, and they're usually in their 30s. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, well, men don't give a shit about any of that. Men just want to have a sweet woman. But I don't know. I guess women are just brainwashed in this society that they think that they have to be the man somehow.
well,
And it actually makes them less attractive too. If they think and behave like a man, it makes them less attractive to men.
Well, the sad thing is people are flipped upside down and backwards, okay? And they didn't take the time to become friends, and it's all about self-centered selfishness. And you can't take your materialistic shit with you to your grave, but they don't care. I've watched a woman once who was willing to leave her children on the highway before she would leave her personal possessions behind. And she was dead serious.
Mm.
This gal was dead serious. Her materialistic items were more important to her children any day of the week.
Yeah.
You know, when they want to tell you women are loving and cherishing to their children, that's a crock of shit.
Yeah.
There ain't no truth to it at all. You know, and these asses and these, oh, excuse my language, but these people know they're lying to you. They want you to be sucker enough to believe the lie. And women don't want you talking about what they're doing because they want to continue to keep women. You know, but when I talk about women, you got to remember I'm not talking about every woman on the face of the earth. Okay?
Oh,
Uh,
of course, yeah. You can't generalize. I mean, there are some. I'm pretty sure there are still some good women out there. There have to be. I mean, I really, truly hope
well,
I'll meet
there
one.
is. I just say that because I have to, because when you're talking about women, unfortunately, so many people will think, and women will think, oh, well, we're not all women, blah, 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 you know. And of course, I understand it's not all women. But what happens is this: the women who are the women who represent this behavior know they are and firmly know they're in the wrong, and they hate any guy that exposes that because they don't want to lose that power that they don't belong having.
Right.
That's what that comes down to. And the women that are not like that, you know, that actually care, because there are women that ain't going to take all the guy's stuff. There are
Yeah.
women that don't do this. There are good women out there, but unfortunately, we have a lot of bad women, just like you have a lot of bad men. Our society's completely messed up.
Yeah.
Everything's out of whack, you know. There's nothing you can do because it starts with care and it starts with recognizing right from wrong and knowing what's right from wrong and caring about people you don't even know. That's where it starts from because when you can do that, then you can correct your own behaviors and on an individual basis, that is the answer. But you can't get people to do that. No, they'd rather keep playing the game and be self-centered and selfish and on and on. It just keeps
Yeah.
going.
Well, I'm afraid that most women will never understand it from a man's perspective. I think they'll just always, think that the man is just supposed to take care of them, that the man is supposed to provide, and that the man is just, a disposable human being,
Oh,
basically.
well, you know, as long as they go that way, this is my answer to the women who think that way. There's a dumpster down the street with a cardboard box. I'm sure you'll be able to scrounge up some plastic somewhere for a roof. Okay? And maybe you could
Mm.
scrounge up some old blanket from somewhere. You can bum a couple bucks and get one from Salvation Army or, well, you're a woman, you'll probably get it on hard luck. And you can just go right ahead and put your cardboard mansion up in the woods and throw your roof on top of it of plastic and climb right on in there, enjoy yourself, or go on down to the homeless shelter and go on down to Salvation Army to get fed because that's how I feel about you because you're nothing to me, just like I'm nothing to you. When you start caring about me, I'll care about you. See, this is how this works. This is not a one sided play. And if you think it's a one sided street, I'll run your ass over.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with hating genders. I hate corruption. See,
Hmm.
in the license bureau that day, there was one woman and one man. I didn't discriminate. I let them both have it.
Mm.
It had nothing to do about
Yeah.
gender. It all has something to do with common sense. You know, it's like, okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say you don't have a driver's license. Let's say you got a state ID. So 4 years later or 3 years later, they tell you it expired. You look at your skin and you're walking around and you're breathing and you're eating. Well, I'm sorry, but I haven't expired yet. I'm not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are you doing changing my ID? Well, because it expired. Well, no, you're not dead yet. Now, if you're worried about what they look like, okay, then maybe they should renew their license once every 10 years, once a decade or something. But no, we don't want to do that because see, we need more money. We need more man tools. The tool, money. See, that's what everything's about: selfishness and greed. And if I make more money than you make, by golly, I could look down on you. And then I'm better than you. I'm above you. You see, the sick mentality is completely
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah, there's no doubt that money, is the root of all evil. And I guess in a way you can't blame these females for wanting to marry up, and they're hypergamy basically because they just want to be taken care of and be safe, and especially if they have children. And I guess they don't care about wanting to spend the rest of their life with the man that they're friends with.
Hey, Bill.
Hello there, Mr. Toronto man.
Oh,
How's
hey,
things,
Toronto.
man?
Hey,
Huh?
I actually left a comment on your channel the other day.
Oh, which video was that of the?
Um, the one about, oh, I can't remember anymore, but I like your channel. You got a good channel. You make some pretty
Thanks.
good videos.
Oh, I'm out there. I was just at the Chick-fil-A in Toronto today. It's the first time an American chicken company, well, American Christian chicken store came to Toronto. I thought that was kind of nice. It's like a 5-star restaurant. It was like really jam packed.
Chick-fil-A is a 5-star restaurant?
In Toronto, it is. It's like the first
Oh,
time. That was like nice, man. It's like it was packed. It was like streets of like so many fucking people, man. Holy shit, it was packed.
I mean, it's all right. I like it. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's going on over there in Toronto?
Oh, it's really bad, buddy. Hypergamy. uh, there's so many females in Toronto that really see men as like dollar signs, you know. Um, uh, now people say that it's like that everywhere, but well, Toronto just, it's people say like hypergamy is everywhere, but I don't believe it.
Well, I mean, it's pretty bad down here in Texas too, especially where I live because it's in the Bible Belt and it's very religious. And all these women, they basically just want to marry men who work in the oil industry because they make a lot of money. So on Tinder and Bumble, they immediately just ask, "Well, yeah, what do you do?" And this one girl literally once told me, "Yeah, if you don't work in the oil industry, then I don't even want to talk to you."
Oh shit. Well, in Toronto, it's like is this are these white females you're talking about, or the mixed?
Mainly white, yeah, mainly
Yeah,
white.
because I'm noticing now this it's white females that are asking for they want they want like white men to have like jobs now. That's what I'm discovering.
Yeah, there aren't too many black girls here, but there are also a lot of Hispanic women
Yeah, I mean,
down here in Texas.
like if you ask like a black guy about black females, he'll tell you that they like white guys. But I mean, if you're into that type of stuff.
Well, I understand what you guys are saying, but when it comes to the races, believe me, it's just as bad if they're black with girls, or just as bad as the white women. Sometimes even worse.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I haven't really interacted with many like black women before, but I have gone on some dates with Hispanic girls, and I kind of have a feeling that Hispanic women, because they come from poverty in general, they're a bit less hypergamous. in my experience at least. I mean, of course, this isn't across the board,
No, well,
but
if you go across the board, you go around the country, you go even go into Canada. I understand, Mr. Toronto man, there, but you have to step outside your city and go somewhere else and experience to be able to understand that it's bad everywhere. Okay, and certain parts of the country, you might have more of something happen there that don't happen in Toronto, and Toronto may have more of something happening there that may not happen over here. But regardless of what, you're all coming down to the same thing because black women are just as can be just as bad as any white woman. I've already witnessed it and seen it, and they really are. Okay, and you ain't gonna get no different with the Mexicans. The problem is the gender period female has been placed in a spot they shouldn't have been placed and
Uh,
worshipped.
mhm.
Okay, that is where it comes from. So you don't matter what the race and stuff is because in their race, they're still the female that's still being pampered and still being put on a pedestal and still, I mean, I'm sorry, self entitled. You owe me. And I'm the one that's in charge because all of my friends say so. And I may be a black girl, but I have 10 white friends. You see what I'm saying? Or I may be a Mexican, but I have some black and white girlfriends, and we hang together, and we all want the same thing. We used to watch the same TV set everybody else does. We're getting the same programming everybody else is. So how do you think it's going to be any different? It ain't.
well, from what if you talk to a black guy who's like a MGTOW or a incel or a TFL, he'll tell you straight up that black females worship white men. That's what I've heard from black men.
You know what?
Um,
I know you're hearing that from black Ben, but let me tell you something. You know how many white women I've seen with black guys?
oh, well, I live in Toronto, so I see that. I see the race mixing. It's like a
It's a to- it's a
Well,
just
sorry that I'm interrupting, but um, I think that a lot of black women probably like white men because white men are in general more successful. I don't want to be racist or anything, but I mean statistically, white men are probably more financially affluent.
statistically I would agree with you. Because what I've seen from the black women that I have seen dating white guys is, yeah, they want a lot of money. They want everything
And I mean,
handed to
it's
them.
the same thing. That's why I never believed in, looking for a wife in Thailand or in Cambodia or whatever, because yeah, I could go there and, you could, I guess, meet a woman, but she's really just gonna like you because they think you're a rich Western dude.
yeah, that's true. So many white guys got burnt in the Philippines. I mean, even if you ask like Filipino men, even to clown on white guys who go to Asia for females, I'm not even kidding. It's like a
Oh
joke.
yeah,
I mean, you have
yeah,
Asian guys clowning white guys for going over to Asia for females. That's kind of a joke. Um,
yeah. So I mean, I guess it's true what Bill says. It's worldwide. I guess it's just in the female nature to just want to get the best deal out there,
Well, you know
basically.
what? That's not so
But
much.
that's nothing new.
Yeah, but unfortunately, when people say nature, I disagree with that because it's not nature. The fact is, you live in a society where everything's been handed to you. And of course, just like anything else, greed, because men are no different that way. Think about it. A man gets a job, he's making lots of money. There's never enough. There's never enough. The difference between the man and woman when it comes to genders is even if the man's a provider, right? He's always after more and more and more. Greed don't have an end. Well, women ain't no different that way neither. Okay, it goes back to selfishness again. It goes back to putting materialistic items and man created crap because that's what you're talking about. Man created crap. I mean, you believe money is the all of everything, but I'll tell you what. If I could have control of all the food and didn't accept money for it, I want to see you go ahead and drink and eat your money and live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe money has a big. I mean, it is all about money,
It
obviously,
is.
in the end.
I mean, with money though, it's like because money is the tool to succeed in life. You know, you're gonna need money to raise kids, and you're gonna need
Well,
money to go
But
to.
you know what the problem is? What the problem is? Like an incel or like an undesirable man can actually become rich. Like he could become like a successful doctor or an attorney or even a successful businessman, but he will still remain an incel even if he becomes married eventually, because essentially he's just going to get used up by a woman for his financial resources.
That's base.
Uh,
But
That's
he's just
base.
going to
That's basically it, in a nutshell. Because the reality is this. Okay, it's no different than for most men. If you're being turned down left and right, and you go out and hang out, the best way I said earlier to meet people is totally by accident when you're not looking. But that don't happen too much anymore. And the fact that people want the companionship, which is normal, okay, you got the situations just as it's gonna be disaster regardless of which way you go. But money has become the real thing because she can take an example would be the Toronto man gets himself a really good job. Toronto man's making really good money, gets himself a 3-4 figure income going. And then some girl comes along now after all these years, she's interested in you. No, she's not interested in you. Oh, of course she told you all the right things. She's going to tell you everything you want to hear. She'll play you along for 2, 3, 4 years till she gets you where she can get your money. Once she's got your money, she's gone, and that's the way it goes. That's when you find out the truth.
damn,
um,
it's terrible. It's depressing.
I'll be right back. Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on.
No problem. See, the
Hey
reality
Bill,
is, yeah.
how's your health going, man?
Oh well, my health is I'm still here. I haven't died yet.
That's good.
You know.
And you recently moved, right?
Yeah, I just this is a matter of fact, this is my real first actual live stream since am in my new place here. I've done a couple videos. I did a short live stream the other night testing, okay, but that's all it was yesterday night. It wasn't meant to be a real live stream. It was just more of because when I got here, I tried to save a buck. I should have known better, and I wound up back on the old school of might as well have had a damn modem in my house I might as well have had back to the phone line and the old modems and waiting hours for something to download and blah 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 because I was running slow as a damn turtle. So I ended up doing away with that server and went back to what I had before. I didn't want the G5, but guess what? I'm G5. So okay.
Oh yeah, G5's coming.
It's not only coming, it's here, it's in my house.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm back,
Oh
guys,
really?
and I'm
Up in
back.
Ohio, you guys have G5, because I don't think it's here in Texas yet.
I'm not in Ohio, I'm in Iowa. And
Iowa.
yes,
Oh, that's right.
I have G5 right here in my house, right here. That's what they put in. They installed 1 gigabyte, blah, 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 fiber optics, G5 internet in my house yesterday.
Yeah. What's your opinions on like the white females and the supporting the LGBT community? I mean, I've seen that's very high where I'm at in Toronto. Like you see a lot of white females supporting the LGBT community now. I don't know if that's in Texas or Iowa. I don't know if you guys see that too. But there's like a very high percentage of that happening in Toronto.
Well, down here in Texas, at least in the town that I'm living in, I live in a town outside of Dallas. It's in the Bible Belt, so it's very Republican here and very Christian. So I haven't really seen any LGBTQ stuff or anything like that. But I heard that in the bigger cities like Austin, Houston, and Dallas, that it's pretty bad there.
That's most of the
Yeah.
time. That's the way it is. So, but the bigger cities seem to hoard that stuff right there. But if you're in a Bible Belt, I know what you're talking about. And so you got a lot of phony Christians there, do you?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Just because these girls here are Christian and quote unquote save themselves for marriage, uh, they're phony. They're not any different. Trust me.
Of course they are. They're
I've went
fake as
on
hell.
I went on a couple dates with quote unquote Christian girls, and they're even worse than the liberals. So I mean, but you can't blame them. I mean, it's female nature. It's all the same at the end. So,
Well,
but yeah.
like with Christian girls, a lot of them are going on dating sites now. I don't know if you've met Christian girls off dating sites. I don't know, but they're like
I have. Yeah.
they're up there. They're very
I'm not TFL by the way, but I mean I'm not exactly like the kind of guy that women will throw themselves at either. I mean
You
it's
know
kind of a
what?
hit or
I
miss.
I totally
Sometimes I go on a date and
yeah,
it goes well. So
I totally understand you, Steve. I have a son I raised. I have a ex-wife, and I've dated before, and I got a wife now. Okay. I've also lived TFL. So, why do you think I came up with TFL from living it? Okay. But at the same time, I can understand Steve because, the best thing I heard Steve say was the fact that he's not getting married or blah, blah, blah until they're best friends. That's the freaking right path to go, man, because it can't go any other way. At
I
least,
mean, marriage requires a lot of years. Well, if you're like a blue pillar, marriage should be the all time goal. But if you've been burnt like I have, or as Steve has, you probably have to be friends with her for like 10 years before you ever make a decision of getting married. At least that's what I have comprehended.
well, it's a three-party contract, anyhow, okay? Because what happens is you get married, and a guy who represents the state or a female who represents the state signs that damn thing. And now, when you get divorced, okay, the state steps in and takes over and says who gets what and what. And 90% of the time, it'll be the guy got bent over and screwed.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Quite honestly, I think if I ever meet a girl and I date her long enough, and then I guess after a while she'll be like, "Hey, when are we going to get married?" I know that she's going to be the one if I say, "Hey, look, it's just a marriage. It's just a contract between us and the state. Is it really necessary?" And then if she agrees with that and she says, "You know what, Steve, you're right. It's all about us loving each other and wanting to spend the rest of our lives together. Why do we even need a contract?" If she says that to me, then I will know she's the one.
Well, you know what?
yeah,
If you get a girl to say that to you, by golly, I would run with it.
I mean, I don't think you
That'll
can.
never happen though.
Yeah, like Steve, like with what you just said, that's like saying what the Noel, you find a unicorn. I mean, they say that it doesn't. I mean, I do believe that could happen though. That's just going to
I think
require.
it does happen like 0.0000001 of the percent of the time.
Yeah, it's in around that number. Maybe it might even be zero fraction of a zero fraction of a okay because
Yeah.
I guess I'll go with coiled steel said. Good good luck. Yep, good. Don't hold your breath. You have lots of headaches if you do. Because when you pass out from holding your breath, when you wake back up, you're gonna have an awful headache. So I wouldn't hold my
Oh
breath
yeah.
waiting because you're gonna have a lot of headaches.
I mean,
Hey, Toronto Forced Loneliness. Can I ask you how old you are?
I'm 25.
25. Okay. I'm
Uh,
29.
we're not too. Okay, well, I think you have a better chance than I would
Hey,
because
I feel like I want to be 29. Is that okay? Oh,
because I've like
Hey, well, I don't know if you want to, Bill, in this day and age, because I think it's worse now than when you were 29.
well,
I
I know
mean,
it's worse now than when I was 29, but I have the right attitude that I didn't have back in the day, then I would love it. People would hate me even more. Oh,
Yeah, like
Well, Bill, but when you were 29, you said you were TFL for a certain period of your life. When was that?
uh, at 29 years old, I was 1 year into a relationship. That's right.
Okay.
Up into 28, that's when I actually met somebody, and I met that somebody, which is my son's mother, and I wasn't looking to meet nobody. And I've met a bunch of people that since that time that are actually they met the person they're with when they wasn't looking. When they were looking, they never found.
Yeah.
So there is
yeah,
some truth there. So there is some truth to that. That's why I tell people most likely it's going to happen when you're not looking, and don't hold your breath because sometimes it may never happen. Okay, but I'll tell you what, I'd rather not have it never happen than to live some of the shit that people freaking was in my life and got to see what you can go through. You might have a second thought if you want to go through that or not.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, being 25 really sucks. I mean, females are using my age against me, so I don't really have that much of a, I don't have that much ground anymore. But I mean, I can understand if you're like 20, 29, you probably get lucky with some females these days, you know. Being
Well,
25.
I mean, it's like, well, but that's not completely true because when you're 29, a lot of girls in my age group, they start talking about how their biological clock is ticking. So, if, they just really want to find a successful guy ASAP and lock him down and, basically terrorize his life
I like that
and,
topic, Steve. I like that
and
topic
basically
because
just pray that the guy is just going to be, a subservient man who just takes her abuse and just locks him into a marriage and
well,
destroys his life, basically.
I like what Steve brought up because that is so damn true. When they get
That's what
into,
most of the girls I go
well,
on
when
dates
they
with,
get,
that's
well,
the impression I get.
well, it's true though. See, there ain't no lie there because the reality is when they start getting the age where their biological clock is ticking, if they don't got kids by then, that's exactly what they're chasing for.
Well,
Yeah.
well, like for girls in my age group of 25, I mean, it seems like they want older men like you, like Steve and you, Bill. I don't know if that's like normal. That seems to be like the new norm of this of 2020 of this century. You know, it's like young girls want old guys these days. I don't know why that is, but
I know why that is.
I mean, it's like
You know
I'm
why
not
you,
that much older, by the way.
no, but
I'm like 4 years.
when you get
I'm
women that
like four
are,
years older than you.
yes, so to Toronto, when you get women who are looking for older guys, these are women who are looking for older guys for one reason only. Because the majority of the older guys are looking for are going to be guys that are already successful, that already have everything they want to steal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But what I'm seeing is that there's girls my age that have everything they want. They have two jobs, two full-time jobs, a house, a car, and they still want an old guy. So if I don't think they'd be gold digging unless they want extra money. But
Well, this is the way it works. Greed don't have no end.
uh,
They think of their future, okay? Let's say they already got a house, right? Well, but if they can win your house through some kind of court settlement after they get through using your ass, now they got a second house they can sell or they can rent out. See, it's not about or maybe they liked your house better than theirs. See, is
yeah,
is
it kind of. Have you guys ever watched that movie with Adam Sandler called Big Daddy?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Do you remember that part when Adam Sandler comes into his girlfriend's house, or no, girlfriend's apartment, and his girlfriend, he goes into his girlfriend's apartment, and he wants to go to the washroom, and he knocks on, and he goes and says, "Oh," and Adam Sandler's like, "Is there a guy in here?" She's like, "No," and then he opens the door, and it's like it's this old ass motherfucker in there, and he's like 80 years old, and he's like, and Adam's saying was like, who the fuck's this guy? And he's like, and the old guy's like, I'm your, you know, your ex-girlfriend's boyfriend. And it's like, that's what I mean. As much of a joke as that sounds, that's actually the norm these days. You know, I don't know if you guys, and it's like, young
I remember
guys.
that scene. I know what you're talking about. It's true. But you know what I also noticed is that yeah, it's true that younger girls, they want to have a wealthier older guy, but older women, they want to have like a good looking young guy. So it goes both ways.
It sure does.
Oh,
It's
They don't
always
know
good.
what they want.
Well, I love it. You couldn't have got more accurate with that statement.
But you know, I'll tell you one thing. I was on a date with a girl. She was my age, and she told me, "Yeah, I own a home. I have 2 cars." She was a pharmacist. I don't know if you guys know, but pharmacists, they make pretty good money. They
oh,
make
that's
like
how, yeah.
six-figure income. So she really had everything, you know. And I asked her, why would you want to own a house as a single woman? Why would you want to have more rooms to feel alone in? And basically, she didn't want to continue dating me because I'm renting an apartment. So to her, I'm, not a high value male
Well,
because
no,
I don't
you're
own
not.
my own home.
Well, it's not even just that. You could probably own your own home and it still wouldn't have been enough because somebody like that, they want you to have they want you to have the same income as them, if not more.
Yeah, more. She
That's,
probably, yeah. I know
I
it's
mean, I
terrible.
don't
As soon as
think,
I told her what I do, it was over, basically.
Oh yeah, of
yeah,
course
I
it's
don't think
over.
being unemployed really destroys your chances too. I've discovered that as well. You know,
If I was an engineer making lots and lots of money, I'd probably tell her I worked at McDonald's flipping burgers.
uh,
That's how you got to do it. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
I
like
don't
those
think,
really, really,
I
those
don't think
really,
that.
really wealthy people that are like multi-millionaires who act poor, who drive in like beat up Toyota cars and, just wear regular clothing and like they're multi-millionaires. That's how all men should act, basically.
Oh yeah, you're damn right. What you do is you got your Porsche and your Rolls Royce or whatever hidden in your garage in your mansion, and you go out and buy an old fucking beater, rusted out Toyota Corolla or something, and that.
Hello.
Why, hello, Warren.
Yeah.
I was just talking about
Hey, I
rusted
just got
out.
off of work.
I was just
Hey,
talking
buddy.
about rusted out Toyota Corollas because that is the way to do it. Okay, so if I had a mansion and I had trillions of dollars, right? And I had my Rolls Royce and my Porsche and my whatever over here, my Jaguar or whatever, I would make sure to buy my old rusted up Toyota Corolla that was rusty and dirty and paint faded and shit. And that's the car I'd take to the date when she asked what I did for a living. I flip burgers at McDonald's. That's what I'd tell her.
Good luck.
You know, that'd be the right thing to do. That's the only way to shit test her, make sure she ain't gonna be using you for your damn money.
That's very true. If she wants to go on a second date with you after that, I mean, she's the one.
Is
That's
that
for
Prince
sure.
Lauren?
Oh, that would never happen in Toronto.
Is that Prince Lauren? That sounds like
That
Prince
won't
Lauren.
happen here in Texas either.
It's just it's one of them things, but that's how I would treat it because if it comes down to what Warren just said. If you want to make sure she's real, this is what you need to do because you can't be a trillionaire, have a mansion and a Rolls Royce and a Porsche and all this shit, and then tell her this shit because I'm sorry, her eyes grow big and she sees dollar signs and she'll say anything you want to hear just to steal and rob you clean. No, you gotta own a Toyota that you keep in the back burner just so you can dick around. Yeah, I flip burgers at McDonald's, man. I might even go far enough to get a job at McDonald's.
I'll even go as far as to say this, Bill. I'll even go as far as to say this. You see all these people that are coping about like, oh, I'm gonna go overseas and all this stuff. If you've got the money to do that, and that's if, because it takes big money to do that. if you've got the money to do that, I guarantee you, she knows that you got money because you have enough money to move to another country. And the only reason that they're with those dudes is because it's just beta bucks and with extra steps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was a Facebook article of this Filipino female, and she she tricked her Pakistani boyfriend into, I don't know how she did it, but she had all this money, and as soon as she got got a lot of money, she just blocked and deleted her Pakistani boyfriend. That's on this Facebook article I saw on Facebook. I don't know if you guys have heard that. No, this.
No.
Well, this ain't Prince Arn. This is Toronto Force Loneliness, right?
Right, and then you got Steve. So you have Steve, who's in Texas, Warren, and then you have Toronto
Hi.
Force Loneliness.
Warren, aren't you from
The way he says
Louisiana?
certain things, like he stresses certain syllables, and
Yeah,
that's how I knew it was him.
Right.
I have like a really bad speech disorder.
Oh, Steve.
I do a little bit too, man. Don't feel bad about that, man. I mean, I kind of got a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Steve did ask you a
Yeah.
question. Steve asked you a question, Warren. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, you're from
Go
the
ahead.
South too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you meant Steve Hoke. Is that another Steve?
No, this is another Steve.
No, I'm
not
not.
Steve Oka.
No, I'm not Steve
Okay.
Hoka. No. It's a different Steve.
Right? Wouldn't it be cool if we had Steve Hoke in here right now? You could have Steve and Steve.
Yeah,
Where's Steve Hoka anyway? Have you talked to him lately, Bill?
Well,
I mean,
well, we talk off
he
and
hasn't
on.
uploaded for like 4 weeks.
Well, yeah, he's got his own life going right now. He's a very, very busy man. We have talked on the phone. Matter of fact, I missed a phone call from him yesterday. But Steve's very busy right now. He ain't, as I've told people before, nobody owes us coming up here and doing what we're doing. And Steve does have a personal life. And he's working.
Oh, yeah.
You know something? Going about TFL guys named Steve, the biggest fucking minstrel show of TFLers that have ever fucking existed probably was what? Steve Urkel in the 90s. And it's funny, if you watch that show, man, I mean, they're always putting the PUA propaganda in there. He steps into his transformation chamber and comes out as Stefan Urkel.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Steve Urkel, he's probably a millionaire. I don't think he got women at all, even when he was a millionaire.
Well, no, Steve Urkel was a character that he played. He wasn't really TFL in real life. But I'm telling you who was, though. Remember Screech from Saved by the Bell? Dustin Diamond?
Oh, he was an actual TFL?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. That's why he's got such an angry attitude. Everybody's like, well, he's got such an attitude. The reason why he's got an attitude is because he's been treated like shit for so goddamn long. That's why he gets mad too if people call him Screech now, because he wants to separate himself from Screech, because being known as Screech is part of what's keeping him under that stigma, to keeping him TFL. So now he doesn't want to be associated with Screech anymore.
Oh,
his life must be a living hell, probably, even with all that money.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about the Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire? That guy, after he left Spider-Man, people, after he left Spider-Man, nobody, Tobey Maguire, that guy, literally his career ended after Spider-Man. It's just, everybody knew he was Spider-Man, but after he left that.
But this kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Even these very rich, successful men, they're still incel, even if they're married. They're TFL within a marriage, because they only have people around them because they have money. If they didn't have money, no girl would be interested in them either. And they're just TFL within a marriage. Even I can bet you, even Jeff Bezos, the richest man on the person, if he wasn't rich, he'd be TFL right now.
And the thing about that is a lot of these guys too, man, is that you know, yeah, I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, it's funny when I hear like MIG tellers like shitting on TFLers or incels. It's like, here's the funny thing about that, right? I'm telling you what most of these guys are. They were incel guys in their teens and their 20s, and some of them focused on making money, right? So then they hit their 30s and their 40s, now they're beta bucksing, right? And they get burned up beta bucksing. So they're pretty much TFLers, you know. And it's funny to me that they want to bash TFLers. I mean, it's like y'all pretty much are TFLers. Even if you beta buck some fucking land wheel or something in your goddamn 30s and got burned up, you're still a TFLer.
Yeah, and according to Bill, it's better to be TFL than to be TFL within a marriage.
Well, from what I'm seeing about like married men is that they don't like. Yes, they're not getting any sex, but then they'll come and bash incels and TFLers. So it's like, you know, it's.
Yeah, that's the thing you got to bear in mind too. Is these guys that are in these beta bucks relationships like that, a lot of the times they're not getting any kind of physical intimacy with their woman at all. And I don't even talk about just sex. Sex is part of it. It's not all of it. They're not getting any of that, bro. You know, they might get just for appearances. They might be able to, like, you know, hold hands or something in public or something every once in a while, do a little sign to virtue signal, but they're not really getting nothing from that, man. I mean, it's usually a cold and bitter, distant relationship.
I mean,
she's upset because she couldn't hook a goddamn guy who was way out of her fucking league for long-term relationships. Now she's mad that she had to settle for some guy who was her equal in attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, tough shit. I'm glad she's mad.
You know,
I'm happy for her. I'm saying, oh man, I'm so happy you're mad.
So then she says, well, if I got to settle for somebody who's in my own attraction range, the least I could do is just use them for a wallet and beta bucks. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this before, but MGTOWs, like they claim that if you're a married man, you're not gonna get any sex. You're better off being single. So I guess that stigma's kind of true to some degree. I don't know if you guys.
It's still depressing though, being TFL. But I guess it's worse to be TFL in a marriage, basically having a beta bucks relationship.
Well, it is. You got to really seriously think about it. When
yeah, but you see that all the time. I mean, I
understand you see it all the time, but I'll tell you what, you're better off to be alone than you are to be with somebody, because if it's not there and you're coming home to this person every day, what you're coming home to is drama, drama, drama. Being treated lower than dirt, constant yelling, constant fighting, constant attitude, constant drama. And meanwhile,
This is something you got to bear in mind too, man. When you really get an idea of what's going on in the modern dating scene, you've got to look at people in their teens and 20s. You don't want to look at people in their 30s and 40s and up, because I'm going to tell you why. People in their 30s and up are usually when the beta bucking starts. So women will, quote, settle for an average-looking guy with a lot of money. But I mean, like you said, I mean, she doesn't really respect that guy. She doesn't really want to be with him. He was pretty much her last choice. You know.
Yeah, but even Brad Pitt got divorced.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, of course they did.
Although, I mean, he's rich too, but I mean, he's the quote-unquote, good-looking guy. So.
Well, yeah, but
women are never happy. Nothing's ever enough for them, bro. I mean, and that was proven when I don't necessarily agree with Calvin on a lot of things, but I mean, sometimes I do. But Calvin, I remember one time years ago, sent me a video about the wives of basketball stars, and you hear this blonde chick, man, going on complaining like, oh, well, about things we have it so easy, but we have it so hard, wah, wah, wah. It's like, bitch, what are you crying about? Your husband is a rich goddamn celebrity goddamn athlete. You're living in a fucking mansion with limousines and butlers and goddamn, and you're still complaining.
Yeah.
You got a rich Chad for a fucking husband, and you got all this more money than you ever know what to do with, but you're still complaining.
Well, of course, because there's never enough. That's how greed works. Any guy that's fucking says, well, I'm going to go ahead and meet all of her expectations is a complete idiot. you'll never meet all of her expectations. That what? Okay, you're gonna meet all of her expectations. What in 80 years?
And
Well,
even
I
if you
mean,
do meet all those expectations, which is that's a hell of a list to get to live up to. But even if you do, man, in these days and age, I won't be surprised if she. Okay, cool. You met that hit list of expectations. Okay, now let me write up a new hit list of expectations.
Oh no,
Expectations on top of
she
that.
won't even have to say, "Let me write it up, Warren." Just when you finished off the list, she already had the new one out. She had that bitch you
well,
wrote before you finished.
well, I mean, I was on Plenty of Fish not too long ago, and this big fat white girl, and she made like an expectations list. And she wanted a guy to have a job. She wanted a guy to move out of his house, out of his parents' house, and pretty much respect pets. So I mean, she didn't really put a lot on there. Just, but she was like big, and she's a big fat white girl. So I was like,
Here's the thing, right? I wouldn't be surprised at all if she didn't have a job herself.
oh, she had about. She said it on her profile that she worked like two full-time jobs, and she owns
Oh
like.
yeah, right. I doubt
Here's
that.
why I am when it comes to jobs, right? You hear me out here, okay? I don't mind man or woman saying, they want their potential partner to have a job or to show that they're willing to work. However, now hear me out. However, that doesn't mean that the guy owes her a living. That's a sign that says that he's able to take care of himself. And I think everybody, man or woman, deserves to be able to ask that out of their partner themselves,
Oh yeah.
as they're able to take care of themselves. It's like you don't want to get stuck in a relationship with somebody who you're gonna have to constantly babysit, who refuses to take care of themselves.
Oh, I understand that, but I would just say something to Toronto here. He brought up this big heavy set woman, okay, and she didn't have much on her expectation list, but she had two full-time jobs, right? Well, let me
Yeah.
tell you what
Yeah.
them two full-time jobs was. The first one was getting to her refrigerator, and the second one was making it back to her chair.
Yeah. It's funny too. I gotta say this. I gotta put this out here, man, because I always hear this excuse about the reason why women are so much pickier is because there's a lot more risk for them to have sex and they might get pregnant, all this stuff, which is absolute bullshit for 100 reasons I can go into, right? Because for one, if that's the case, they're picking the most worst guys to have babies with that you could ever fucking imagine. Not to mention the welfare state, women spin out welfare babies.
Well,
But
you're you're in like a small town, right? So you probably see that all the time. But I'm in a big dump, and the asexual is like 100% where I'm
But
at.
then you gotta look at too, man. How I'm not saying all women. There's a fucking lot of women that are taking the easy way out of saying, you know what, I'm not going to get a job. I'm just going to lay on my back and spread my fucking legs for fucking dollars. And look how easy a lot of women do that. I'm not saying it's all of them, man, but there's a lot of them out there that are doing that.
I know, but you're from a small
So
town.
wait a minute.
Right?
So it's such a risky business for them. A lot of folks are using it for an easy out.
Yeah, but you're from a small town, right? It's like you guys, because you're from a small town, you probably see things a lot different than what I'm seeing. Right? So.
Well, let me say this. I live in a small town, and it's definitely easier to basically get a girlfriend, but she's definitely not going to be good looking.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live in a small town too, but there was just no jobs, right? So it was like, like I always said, I think I've said this before, like I think 10 steps ahead, but like, like
Here's the thing, man.
you're gonna need finances to raise a fucking kid,
Here's the thing. I wouldn't require her to necessarily be that good looking. She just has to be good looking enough. I mean, if she's at least semi-average looking, like if I was to rate her attractive on a scale of 1 to 10, if she's at least a 4, maybe even a 3.5, maybe at least a 4, I can deal with that.
That's a low bar, dude.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm not all about looks, man. As long as she looks good enough, I'm not disgusted at being with her, man. I'd be much more about personality than I am about looks.
Well, you know what, Warren? In reality, that's what it should be anyhow. It's about knowing each other. Because, the old rule is simple. I understand people want some attraction. I respect that. But the fact is,
Yeah.
nobody's keeping their damn looks. And if they think they are, they can just pay direct and visit your local nursing home. And remember, one day that'll be you.
Well,
Yeah.
Bill, MGTOW says men age like wine and women age like sour milk.
Well, I don't know. Walk into a nursing home and you'll find out you're both aged pretty old and wrinkly and wadded and folded up.
Well, here's the thing too, man. Especially with the date thing, the way being the way it is too, where it's like if you're a 5'10" guy, the best you might be able to do is a 210. I mean, here's the thing. Bear in mind when I say this, man. Okay, if you're a guy who's shooting significantly above your attraction level and you wonder why you can't get women, then that's pretty fucking stupid. I mean, like I look at myself in the mirror. I'm a 4 out of 10. If I was to rate my attraction level, I'd probably be about 4 out of 10. So I try to look for people who are within my range. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I would never put like a number attached to your looks, though. That's kind of stupid.
Well, but Warren, that's your name, right? Warren?
Yeah, but here's the thing.
No, I just want to say,
realistically, and you agree with me, right?
Warren. Hold on, let's.
Can I just say? I just wanted to say real quickly that women, even 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 women, when they put on makeup, they look like completely different people.
That's true.
Oh, I know.
I'm serious. I'm not even kidding. I've dated girls before. When I first met them, they were literally 6 out of 10, and then like the next day when I saw them without makeup, they were like.
In order to expose hypergamy, right? You'd have to be able to look at yourself and be able to look at a woman and be able to acknowledge the disparity. I mean, how are you going to acknowledge the disparity if you're not able to rate people relative attraction level? I mean, how are you going to acknowledge the disparity? Because I mean, there's a major disparity when you see healthy, good-looking, athletic men who can't do any better have to sit here and date these big fat women all the time because that's all they can get. There's obviously a disparity.
Well, I think it goes back to women being entitled and thinking that the whole world owes them something and that they should just be able to get a better looking man than them.
Yeah.
That's how women think.
So if I say a 3'10" woman or 5'10" woman or a 3'10" guy or a 5'10" guy, it's more about acknowledging the disparity, man. I mean, you can't acknowledge the disparity if you're not able to scientifically break down the phenomenon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Hey, but I have a question for Toronto Forced Loneliness. Aren't there loads of immigrants in Toronto, especially a lot of Indian people and stuff?
That's correct. That's true.
So is it even hard to date the Indian girls? Or?
Well, what happens is the Indian females do stay loyal to their own race of men, if you can believe that. There are if you go to the west side of Toronto, you're going to see a lot of Indian families with money, and so they seem kind of happy, It's, and the same thing.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like the Asians in California; they all stick together and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I mean, it's fine.
One guy, have you ever heard of this guy? His name was Held by the Dashboard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know him.
He said a true statement. He said, He said that Asians stick together. He said, I forget. It was like he had like an old video, and he's driving through Niagara Falls, New York, or Buffalo, and he's like telling you how it is with immigrants.
No, I know what you mean. They have their own communities and they stick together. It's very true. I mean, they have, but I also think that has a lot to do with their parents' expectations of wanting them to marry their own and stuff, and arranged marriages and stuff like that. So that's why Held by the Dashboard said he wishes he was Asian.
I would
Here's the
take
thing,
him.
man.
I would
because
make.
then he wouldn't be TFL.
If I would
Here's the
make.
thing, and
Let me finish 1 second here. Then I'll let you go, Warren. I just
uh,
got something sarcastic to say. I would do away with all makeup so we can take off the phony face. You can see what they really look like.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Go ahead,
that's
Warren.
very true.
what I was saying is this, man. I mean, sometimes I agree with how about dashboard lights. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I agree with them to a certain extent, up to a point. But like when it comes to the whole race thing, man, I do think that all races of men are living TFL. That being said, as far as sexual market value or whatnot between the races of men, you know, you hear a lot of incels say all the time, "Oh, the white men have the highest value." But you hear hell about dashboard lights saying, "Oh no, they have the lowest value." Here's where I am on that. Okay, and I think a lot of this is reflected in testosterone levels, right? The lowest values are the Asians, right, and maybe the Currys in with them too, right? And then the next lowest value are the whites, and then then Hispanics, and then blacks. And the reason I say that is because there's a number of reasons why I say that. I mean, they throw this statistic around on incel forums talking about how, well, white men are the most desired men. Okay, number one, beta bucks in your 30s and 40s doesn't fucking count as ascendant. Now, I got to go ahead and point that out in the first place, right? A lot of these women, okay, Asian women, Hispanic women generally have to think for white guys, but on the aggregate whole, man, I mean, what I'm seeing is, think about it, man. If whites are so heavily sexual market value, then explain to me why it is that all the white countries are being flooded with primarily male Muslim immigrants, right? To displace their Asian, to displace the men there.
Oh,
that don't make any sense. That wouldn't make any sense. If the whites had higher sexual market value, right, than all these Arab guys, then why are they bringing all these Arab guys in to displace the white men?
Well,
that wouldn't make any sense.
You're talking about England and France and Germany and Sweden.
Yeah.
Countries that have allowed the UN policies they gotta allow immigrants in. So, I mean, there's been horror stories about Muslim men raping white females over there too.
Well, I mean, I all I know is that I do have an Indian friend who he lives in Washington D.C. and he told me that he's not getting any matches at all. So I think that I think that generally people prefer to date within their own races. Of course, there are outliers. There are outliers all the time.
Conservative white women like to date within their own race, man, but a lot of liberals, man, a lot of liberal girls of liberal persuasion. I know the whole hip hop thing is so big nowadays, and a lot of these young white girls, man, are all about goddamn wanting what they call mud shark, and it's like a trend. I mean, here's the thing, man. There's a fetish out there, BBC, right? I mean, I don't hear a fetish thing for white dudes or Asian dudes, or I mean.
Yeah, I hear you. I know what you're saying. I experienced that when I used to live in a small town too. I mean, white girls in small towns. Oh my God, they ever act like hood rats.
And look at the way it's portrayed in the media, man. And again, I'm not saying this to sit here and say that there aren't, because I know there's some legit black TFLers, man. But look at the way it's generally portrayed in the media. I'll just give you some Tyrone who's very suave and very charismatic, and who's a romancer, and he can dance, and and all this other shit. Versus what are the whites and Asians generally picked out in the media? You're short, you're a dork, you can't dance, you have a small penis.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, like the commercials and the movies and the TV shows, right?
Yeah.
That's actually, if you do the research on that, that's like Jewish propaganda, and that's what the white guy is supposed to be, to the white female as a weakling, a nerd. You know, it's like it's. I mean, I'm
Well, higher testosterone levels too, man. Higher testosterone levels is going to lead to more quote Chad genes. So like you know, the darker races generally have higher testosterone rates. So you know, that's going to lead to like things like, you know, being taller and, you know, having, okay, white people might have better looking facial features, but I mean, as far as being athletic and tall and robust and things like that, I mean, generally speaking, blacks are more athletic than whites are. I mean, there are exceptions, but I'm saying generally, I mean, you know, you know, how many white guys can you think of in the NBA? Now, how many black guys can you think of in the NBA?
Yeah, but you got to also look
I
at
mean,
the stats. Is that like black and brown countries? They got a better fertility rate than white countries do. That's a fact. I mean,
Well,
if
you know,
you
all I know is that I think that as long as a relationship or a marriage is based on money or looks, it won't last.
yeah, but
Or at least it won't be a true marriage or a true relationship. You know, that's why I do really like what Bill says, that, you know, if you do manage to become best friends with somebody and you end up marrying them and spending the rest of your life with them, then you're good. You know, that's really a beautiful thing, but that just doesn't happen barely anymore.
No, no, it
well,
don't.
I live in like I mean that would probably happen in like a small town. I mean, I
Not
believe you guys.
necessarily. That's where you.
No, I don't think so,
That's
I
because
that's
I
live in a
live
not
in
big
a small
true.
city.
town and
That's not true
I,
whatsoever.
I live in a big city.
Don't matter. I've been in lots of big cities, and I've lived in small towns, and I've lived in big, heavy populated areas, and small
Come
towns.
to
And it's an imagination, it's an illusion, it's a mirage that you're going to move to a small town and be able to meet and blah blah. And somehow she's going to be different than the girl in the big city, because no, she's not. She's been pampered and placed on her pedestal just like every other woman, even in a small town.
well. What I mean by that is that if you've been to school in a small town, yeah, you probably will get lucky with a female. I'm not saying it's 100%, but probably 50 to 60% lucky. I mean, compare that to like a big town like Toronto or New York. I mean, is dubbed the feminist capital of the world. New York's been dubbed a dump.
yeah.
Hey,
I
Toronto.
will
So
see.
are you telling me that Toronto is like a TFLer's worst nightmare?
Yeah.
There really is nowhere good to go if you're a TFL. I see incels coping with this shit all the time, talking about, if we identify with this group or that group, they're gonna look out for influence. Well, let me tell you something, man. I hear all the time people talk about like coping, saying, "Oh, if we move to a Muslim country," let me explain something here to you, man. Muslim countries are harem societies. You know, you're not going to goddamn escape insult by moving to a polygamous society. That's fucking retarded. That's like saying, "Oh, I'm going to put this fire out by throwing gas on it."
That's a good idea, Warren.
Well, a Muslim, if you went to an Islamic country, I mean, even over there, they respect their own people over there, you know.
I'll
Well,
just.
because it's a myopic mindset that just because, oh, well, they're a little bit harsher on women over there than they are here, therefore they must be good for incels. That's myopic as fuck.
Yeah, that's like fighting fire with fire, right?
Yeah. That's like the fallacy of saying, oh, just because this is bad for women or perceived or to be relatively bad for women, I don't know, I'm not there. But just because, even if it is, let's just say it is, okay? Oh, just because this is bad for women, it must be good for men, and it must be good for incels. That's such bullshit fucking logic, bro. I mean, that doesn't wash. You know, it is possible they could be bad for women and for men.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you know, all I know is that, you know, Brad Pitt got divorced, Jeff Bezos got divorced. So obviously none of these guys were good enough for these women. So in the end, you know, if a woman really just loves a man for his money or his looks, she's going to get over that at some point too, and she'll also want to have a quote unquote best friend or somebody that she truly loves, you know. So I mean,
yeah.
I think that women, they have their own issues to deal with when it gets to relationships. Obviously, they have hypergamy and everything. But I think at the end of the day, women are also seeking for exactly what a man wants, just a companion, somebody that they can share their life with. But I think that for women, because they have to get children and they have to deal with their own hypergamy and they have to, they have to seek a provider. They've been told their whole life to seek a provider. That it actually gets harder for them because as they get older, they only realize that, okay, all of this money and all the looks and everything, it doesn't matter in the end. I just really want to have a guy that I can become a best friend with.
Well, Steve, Jeff Bezos, that guy cheated on his wife with a female, so I don't think, if you're saying that he's like an incel or TFL guy, I don't think that suits that paradigm,
Okay, right, yeah. I wasn't
Bezos.
aware of that.
I'll
didn't
say
know
this,
that
man, and
he
I'm not
actually
even saying this
cheated.
to shit on women or to sit here and try to make it into a dick measuring contest between the genders. But I'm gonna be flat out real with it here, man. I mean, I'm not saying that women don't have relationship issues, man, but a woman's relationship issues compared to a man's in today's society, man, is
Even Brad Pitt, even if he's 100 years old, I bet there'll still be females drooling over him. I swear to God. I mean, I know. I was watching
Well, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. I don't mean. I want to point this out to you, though. I want to correct you. Something you said. Even he's 100 years old. Well, here's the thing. Even Chad don't keep his looks, right? Look at Bill Cosby, man. Bill Cosby in his young days was a Tyrone or a Black Chad runner. He was a pretty good-looking guy, right? But now he's old, and now you watched up what they do. They Me Too'd his ass.
Yeah,
he don't got those looks anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's Bill Cosby or Bill Cosby. I'm talking about Brad Pitt.
Well, it don't matter. I don't care if it's Brad Pitt. The guy's just as human as the rest of us, and guess what?
But
he ain't keeping his looks.
From what I've seen on TV, females don't give a shit if he's old or not. I mean,
on TV they'll say anything for the buck.
I know. Well,
yeah, you know why? Because Brad Pitt is like what, maybe in his 50s, and he's still in good shape. He still looks like he's maybe in his 40s or 30s. Well, wait till he hits like 70 years old and age starts to show, bro. I mean,
Nobody keeps their looks. I don't care what they are. They're not keeping their looks.
I mean, I would consider myself like probably a 6 out of 10. I don't know, maybe a 5 out of 10 on a bad day. And I mean, my looks have deteriorated, and I'm 29. I used to look better, and I don't know. All I'm hoping for is that I do someday meet a girl or a woman that is also just looking for companionship.
If you're an incel, man, you're probably, chances are, would be rated by majority of people. It's like maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10, maybe a 5 out of 10. 5 is the absolute highest. The people that would rate you.
Well, if you there's been like a study on like dating sites, and I think the accurate percentage of males that were found attracted by females was actually 0%.
Oh yeah. Well, women are only going to rate the top 20% of guys as dating material.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you're not in that top 20%, okay, there's different tiers, right? There's I guess what you call your quote normie tier, which you're not in the top 20%, but you're not TFL either. You're in that kind of that median stage, which is like since we're still in the serial monogamy stage, right? And they can't share 20% of the men all at the same time. So what do? They go to those average normie guys while they're waiting for Chad to make himself available. You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah. Those guys usually hook up with like a single mom that's completely out of shape, and then they delude themselves into thinking that they're that they're not undesirable, but they're really just beta boxing.
Yeah, pretty
Well,
much.
Well,
And then
single.
they just convince themselves that, okay, I'm fine. I have a woman. I'm good.
Yep,
And
they
then
have
they just
started
kind
The
of.
thing about it that's the funny thing about it is anyone attack like TFLers and incels and stuff like, look, the only difference between me and you is the fact that I have a spine and I'm not willing to goddamn literally force myself to be with some post-wall, 3 foot tall, 450 fucking pound burn victim just to have somebody.
I mean, yeah, you got a point, man. It's
You don't
true.
want to. You don't.
I mean-
Warren. You mean you don't want to be with Katie Piper?
Yeah,
Well, with single mothers is even they like if you go on dating sites these days, it's like from what I've gathered is these dating sites, they collect information intel on your profile, and they know exactly how much responses you're getting from the females. And what happens is if you're not getting enough responses from the ladies, they'll even suggest to you, would you date a single mother? I don't know if you guys have experienced that. I don't know.
What you tell them is hell no. It's like, hell no, I'm not going to sit here and beta box your children from Chad.
Yeah, but but this is how low we've females have sunk into. Like anybody can be a millionaire. And it's like, but it's sad how men are treated on dating sites these days.
That's because you're not a human.
My question is whether or not this is going to change at some point, because I don't know if it can go on.
Well,
because otherwise we're just going to have a bunch of miserable post-wall women and a bunch of incels and TFLers, basically. I mean, the human race can't progress this way.
That's true, but what there was a study out that said by 2030, online dating sites will be the new norm of how to meet a fucking lady. So it's like, it's as bad as that sounds. That's what the scientists have discovered.
Yeah.
By 2030, online dating sites will be the new norm to meeting a female.
So then you'll
Well,
be.
Warren, how old are you?
I just turned 40.
40. Okay. And I mean, are you dating or?
No, I'm not. I haven't dated. I've had in my entire life, okay, I was TFL all through my teens. I was TFL through my 20s. About 24, I managed to get my first relationship. That lasted about maybe a month or two. And I left her for reasons I don't want to go into right now. That's another story for another time.
Wow.
And then about maybe a year or two later, and just out of sheer luck, I got one more, which lasted about a month. I only got to see her once every other weekend, and that lasted about a month. And that was about 15 years ago. And the last 15 years, I've been back to being TFL. So.
Oh man, I mean,
okay.
I just haven't had any luck since I moved to a big town, and it's like you see other miserable men are in the city too, and it's just in one way you kind of relate. It's as bad as that sounds. Like I said before, I used to live in a small town, but I used to live in a predominantly Irish part of the Irish part of Canada, where there's no jobs, and you got to rely on the government handouts. I understand where you guys are coming from, but Steve has said that he lives in he lives in Texas, where the females are dictating that he has to work in the oil fields. I can believe that too.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely imagine how in a big liberal city, it's probably more tough. I mean, here in this small town here in Texas, where I don't know, there's a big Christian community, and there are a lot of white people. There are very few black people, and even very few Hispanic people. It's predominantly white here, and I mean, I would say it probably is definitely a bit easier, but I mean, I can guarantee you in this town. I mean, I think there are like 100,000 people living in this town, and I can guarantee you right now that half of the men living here are TFL or incel.
Oh, for sure. I probably, like,
And I'm pretty sure that in like Toronto or in New York or whatever big liberal city, the percentage is probably 60 or 70%.
oh, it's, yeah, that's true. But, I mean, like you're in a town in Texas where there's like a high expectation put on you by white females to make that money. Like it's kind of hypergamous, but I
That's
mean,
true. Yeah.
Unfortunately, whether you're in Texas where oil's at, the bottom line comes down to this. It doesn't matter what state you're in, how big your city is, and how small your city is. The one thing most all women have in common is they're chasing your ATM ass.
ATMS was that.
Yeah, but Bill, like I said before, like I used to live in a small town where there was no jobs available, so just government handouts and.
Well, Toronto. I just left a small town with no jobs that had not even one stoplight. Okay, and it's not like I haven't lived in small towns, because believe me, I just left one, and I've lived in more than one in my life, and I've also lived in big, spread out areas with populations of 200,000-300,000. So the reality is when it comes down to the female gender, it has been socially engineered all over the place. Doesn't matter where you go, and greed has no end. And when you place one gender above another and then worship that gender on top of it, okay, with 30 years of male bashing all over your media, you couldn't really expect any different results, could you?
And let me tell you this, okay? In the next 20 to 30 years, you're going to see the sex bot industry take off, and eventually they're going to replace women. That's going to mark a very big upturn in the gender dynamic. Now, hear me out here. I don't think that the government is going to completely allow women's sexual market value to completely drop to nothing, because they still want to keep some kind of value in them to keep the carrot in front of the donkey's nose. So what's going to happen is people are going to be having these AI bots, these sex bots, right?
Oh.
But these robots are not going to be having artificial womb in them. They're not going to be able to reproduce babies. So any men who want to reproduce babies are going to have to get a biological woman. But see, that's the thing. The biological women are only going to be available to like maybe the top 15, 20%, if that, of the common class men who are going to have access to all of that.
Yeah,
right?
But with the sex bots, they're going to raise that price probably like $10,000 per sex bot. So is it? That's going to also be like expensive to get that,
Yeah.
Well, no, not necessarily, because due to supply and demand, if something is in demand, it generally gets cheaper if it's mass produced.
Yeah, that's true, but still, I mean,
just like cars. I mean, not everyone had a car 30 years ago, but now everyone has a car. Now you can pick up a car for a couple $100 if you want. I mean, if it's going to be a crappy car, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to get these bots, bro, and they're not going to want to have. I mean, the ones that don't want to have, that aren't interested in having kids, that say, this is a pretty fucked up world anyway. That's where I'd be at, right? And I'm not really interested in bringing kids into this mess. I just want to have my needs met. Those guys are going to be the ones that are just going to be like, you know what, man. There's going to be a lot of those guys eventually. They're just going to walk away and be like, you know what, it's going to drive a wedge between the genders, man. It really is.
Well, the
That's
top
depressing.
20 to the top 20 or top 10% of men that are getting sex. I mean, that's been going on for what? How long? Like 30 or 40 fucking years, you know? It's really, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, the
Yeah.
populations have like the population has been decreasing every 10 years, you know.
Well, that's been deliberately done. That's why it's pathetic. They flashed and told people forever and ever now. They threw up the Georgia Guidestones. They put it in your face. Your so-called owners have literally told you right to your face all over your television set about NWO. They have told you over and over and over and over and over, and people still want to turn their heads to it. So they really can't complain about what's going on when they're not willing to look to see what's going on to begin with.
Yeah,
And I hate to be that way, but the reality is if your car breaks down and you go to a mechanic as your starter's out and I keep telling you something else, you're going to still keep having the same problem, okay? And the reality is people are not looking for the root cause. They don't care to look. And for what people see the root cause, they're not interested in changing it, or they're already told themselves there's nothing I can do about it, which has already
and you
set
know
the
why?
stage for you to do nothing about it.
Because people always have this mentality. There's this snowflake mentality, like, oh, it can't happen to me. It can't happen to me. It can't happen to me. I mean, yeah, this stuff has happened over and over again through hundreds of other nations and empires, but somehow it can't happen to them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, they do, and nobody wants to take the responsibility of what it would take to change things. And
Oh yeah,
to
yeah.
change things has to come on an individual, has to start individually, people wanting, okay? And until that happens, I mean, you're not going to change nothing.
I do wanted to mention one more thing that Toronto Forced Loneliness was talking about, how in smaller towns, it probably is a bit easier to find a girlfriend. What is true is that in smaller towns, people are definitely more friendly and a bit more open, and the communities are a bit more. I guess there are better relations. Like when I walk around here in Walmart or in Brookshire's or any grocery store, people will sometimes say, make small talk and say hi and this and that. And I've been in larger cities before, and I noticed that there's none of that. Like people won't even acknowledge you. Like you're technically invisible, basically. So, I mean, I think just that alone does actually sort of indicate that it is probably a little bit easier to establish relationships in smaller towns.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I.
yeah.
And because actually, Bill, I was wearing that TFL T-shirt that you sent me. Sometimes I walk around in Walmart with it, and I actually had a couple people ask me what TFL is, and then I just told them to look at your channel or just YouTube it, what True Force Loneliness is. I didn't want to explain it to them because I didn't want them to think I'm crazy or something. But
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot. You see, send it my way. I understand.
Because it has the website printed on it, True Force Loneliness, and if you go on that domain, it's not there anymore.
No, you
So
can thank Dwayne Holloway for that.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah.
I heard about Dwayne. I don't know who he is, but I guess he was a TFLer.
He was at the very beginning. I started TFL, and Dwayne was always there in the background. Him and I were talking. Steve Hoke could
He
come
was a black
along.
guy, right?
Dwayne was, yeah. And Steve Hoke could come along. And that's where I met Steve. And then it took off between me and Steve and Dwayne. Dwayne was actually a really good speaker, a really good researcher. And he had his shit together, but unfortunately he lost his shit somewhere down the road. I can't say any more than that.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad he's not around anymore.
Oh, he's around. He's just being a troll.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he's just playing troll and hiding.
Right. Yeah. But
Here's the
that's
thing,
what I
man.
wanted to say. I mean, I think it is a little bit easier in small towns, but I mean, it's definitely getting harder everywhere.
Oh yeah,
Dwayne
that's
is
true.
somebody who is a self-produced TFLer. Let me tell you why I say that.
That is true.
First off, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. He's 450, 500 some fucking pounds of fucking blubber, man, and he don't try to fix that. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna hold it against my being fat, but he don't try to fix it. He throws a fit when you know when he signs up for a gym and his trainer tells him to hit a treadmill. Okay, he hasn't never worked a job. He doesn't do nothing but sit in his fucking room and play video games all day. He's scared to leave his fucking house because he's afraid.
To be honest, sometimes, especially like in the Midwest and southern states, you'll sometimes see like bigger dudes. Well, usually they're like tall, but they're like just a bit husky. They're a bit chubby. You'll see even them walking around with hot girls.
Well, yeah,
or
but
at least girlfriends.
I understand, but you
Yeah.
know, there is a point of what Dwayne actually is his own fault for a lot of it because,
That's,
you know, the reality is if you live in your bed and you only get out of your bed to go to the refrigerator or go to the bathroom, okay, I don't know how you expect that somebody's just going to magically come to you. So,
Okay, was that bad? Was that heavy?
unfortunately, oh yeah, he was like, I mean, he came out and visited me.
Yeah.
He actually come to my house and I put him up and he visited me. And his body filled a full-size bed by himself. There was nobody else that could fit on it. Okay. And then when I took him out to eat, and this guy had 2 full meals along with dessert and 2 drinks in front of him at all times. And he downed every bit of it. Not one crumb went to waste. Okay. So no. And Dwayne wore himself out just walking 2 blocks. He had to take a 3-hour nap for walking 2 blocks because he's that out of shape. Okay. And you know, but
Yeah,
part
that's
of it
a
is
problem.
when you're that heavy, what we take for common, you get up and walk around. When you're that heavy, getting up and walk around takes everything out of you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so he
Yeah.
was his own worst enemy in that aspect. But Dwayne really had a good heart and really meant well. He really did. It's just he didn't have it in him to do what needed to be done, and it had gone too far and too long. You know, but Dwayne was a great speaker. He did a lot of good videos. He made a lot of good points. He was a really good researcher. But you know, it comes down to people have to make the individual choice, and then they have to work and want to. You know, he would have to want to change himself. Nobody can do it for him. Okay, it don't matter what you tell somebody; they have to want to do it themselves. And that's really where it comes down from. And you know, the thing is changing anything in the dating arena is going to take people on an individual basis wanting what's right. But nobody wants what's right because it's all about number one. It's all about if I can one up you or I get my dick put into my more holes than you, I'm a better man than you. It's all about sport, competition, game. It's all about everything that nothing should be about. So, you know, and until that mindset changes, you ain't changing a damn thing.
Yeah, I agree with what Chris said too. He says, I think women are becoming increasingly more authoritarian in today's society. They become enraged if you don't obey them. Yeah,
Oh,
man,
that's
I
for
see
sure.
that.
That's for sure. Yeah, my brother, he just recently got married, and he's not wearing the pants in the relationship, for sure. I mean, I don't want to say anything about my brother or anything, but like all I know is that if I get married, there has to be mutual respect. You know, there can't be this constant power struggle because it's not a good sign.
No,
oh yeah, that's
that's
true. No.
that is a relationship that's doomed to fail. I mean, you know,
Yeah, that's what I'm
or
afraid of.
or he's going to live in misery. I mean, you can live in misery for years, and I've seen lots of guys do it. Get into a
A
relationship
lot of
where
guys do it. Yeah.
where she's going to
Yeah.
rule the house, and he's going to have nothing but drama. There ain't going to be no sex. There ain't going to be no this. There ain't going to be no that. But there's going to be all
Even though
kinds
my
of
brother,
drama.
even though my brother makes all the money and he pays, you know, the mortgage, he pays the light bill, basically everything.
Well, but he owes
But
it to her. Society said so, right? He's proven he's a
yeah,
man, so he's proved he's a man by becoming an ATM machine.
yeah, it's true.
And that's not helping him, and it's not helping to change anything because that only perpetuates and keeps the problem going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard to talk to them about it. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But
Oh,
And that's
well,
the
it
thing
is.
too. Almost all women will sit here and say, "Oh, I want a man that can take care of me." Okay, but at the same time, if you want a man who can take care of you, then you don't need to work a job. You need to sit your ass at home and be a fucking housewife.
Well, no, then she'll
Because
sit her ass at home, Warren, right? And you'll come home
yeah,
and your meal won't be cooked and the house will be filthy. She's done nothing because she sat her ass at home.
you know, I mean, it's just simple. You can't have equality and chivalry. When we're talking about, oh, well, we want equality, we want to be able to make our own money. Okay, sponsor. Now you made your own money, so guess what? He don't owe you a fucking living anymore. Well, what part of that do people not understand?
Well, the courts say that you do because if she sits at home and don't work, and she does that for 5 years or 7 years, when she throws you away, she can use the courts and they'll say, well, she's used to this style of living because you provided it, so therefore she gets alimony, and for the rest of your life, you're going to provide that style of living for her. Well, so what if you live in a cardboard box?
You know, Bill, you made that one video about TFL within a marriage where you said that when women do a favor for men, they weaponize it.
They
Basically,
do.
they keep on. They always remind the man of what they did,
That's
and whenever
right.
a man does something for a woman, she takes it for granted. Basically, I can basically see that happening between my brother and his recent wife, my sister-in-law, basically, and but I think that men that are in relationships like this, they deep down inside they feel that something is wrong, and some guys live with it till the day they die. They kind of accept it,
That's
being the
correct.
punching bag or being the
That's
stupid male,
correct. Yep.
That's correct.
That is
and I think
100%
that
spot on.
the more men who just stand up and stop taking this kind of abuse and just realize that it's probably better just to live TFL alone than being TFL within a marriage, the more men that do that, that's going to lead to a change, to societal change.
Steve, if you're married and you want to break out of the marriage as a male, that's kind of like hard to accomplish.
If you got kids, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're like I understand where you're attacking from. You're talking from the perspective that you want mutual respect from your female companion and so on and so on, and these days, it's very hard to get that, but as you're saying, but like married men, that are just not manning up to the plate, and they're married and they're unhappy and they can't leave because if they leave, they'll be paying alimony and all that bullshit. Yeah, I mean, I just,
I guess that's how society engineered it.
That's true, but then there's like back in like the 20s, or it's probably like 70 or 80 years before all this crap, probably it was a lot easier, women were more like, if they were married to you in the 1920s, probably, you wouldn't, you would still have to be the breadwinner, but it would make all sense because you'd be making the money and she'd be, look after the kids and all that
I will
stuff.
say this, from a logical point of view in today's society, man, it would make most sense to go MGTOW monk style. I mean, it really would. I know a lot of MGTOWs are actually TFLers that are trying to, are in denial about it, or they want to hide it or whatnot. I mean, but look, on a logical level, though, man, regardless of whether that's a cope or not, let's be real. From a survival assessment standpoint, it does kind of make sense on a purely logical basis.
There are people that want this society to collapse anyway. I mean, for a good reason, there's not enough there's not enough kids being born in North America, females having their own hypergamy. I mean, going MGTOW monk would require you it wouldn't change a whole lot. I mean, it probably would make you feel happy in some capacity. You know, like it wouldn't change the birth rates. It wouldn't change females' brains, but it would probably make you.
It would change the females if the upper 20% started going MGTOW monk.
Yeah, well, I want to address something here. Chris's last statement. Okay, first off, women were never oppressed. That's a fantasy. That's an illusion. That's a mirage. Okay? Women have never been oppressed. Never. They've been lied to, but they've never been oppressed.
Well, I'll say this. I won't say that women have never been oppressed. I'll say they as a class have never been oppressed because of their gender. I mean, and there might have been like situations where like individual women might have been oppressed for other reasons.
Right. Well, that would be what I mean by it, Warren. I'm not saying they can't be oppressed or haven't been, but I'm talking about as far as their gender and the dating arena itself. They've never been oppressed in that area. Never.
If you want to say like being a housewife, being as a sign of female oppression, I mean, if that's what the feminist females are claiming, that being a housewife is what female oppression is in these days and times, it's bullshit. But
well, I would agree that men are oppressed with Chris.
No. Because you hear this all the time by lesbian feminist females, and they say that being a housewife is oppression to the female gender. I don't know. It just sounds kind of stupid to me, but.
The funny thing about that is, okay, so let's think about this. Being a housewife is oppressive to the female gender. So would they rather work in the coal mines? Would they rather work in, as fire women? I mean, you're putting out fires. Would they rather go fight our wars and die of malaria and bombs and bullets and shit all over the place? Hundreds of thousands of miles from home.
Oh, let's just go with this. Okay, hold on a second. Let's just go with this, Warren. Since in the last decade or so, Hollywood's painting women out to be the new Chuck Norris and the new Bruce Lee and the old tough, mighty, blah, blah, blah woman who's beating the shit out of man after man. Maybe they should get on the front line and show themselves beating the shit out of men, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, Chris is right. He says, I think men are oppressed. Yeah, really, to be honest. In fact, it's such a subtle and pervasive oppression on a greater society-wide level that most people, they've been trained this all their lives, so they don't know what they're looking at. So,
but you know what the problem is? You know what the problem is that a woman will never understand a man's oppression, ever. Even the most compassionate women in the world will not understand the pain that an incel or TFLer is going through. It just doesn't cross their mind. They just never take the time to view the issue from another perspective, from a male's perspective. They've been told their whole life that women weren't able to vote at some time, or that they were burned at the stake, or whatever. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Here's the thing. Okay, women didn't generally evolve the ability, like look, going back to pre-civilization, and is pretty much rooted into our DNA, because it's what we learned to survive on. Is men had to look out for the well-being, had to put the well-being of others before themselves, right? Namely, women and children, in order to propagate the survival of the species, right? So it's in us to be leaders and to be able to put the needs of others before ourselves, right? But women do the very same phenomenon, the very same womb theory, in order to propagate a species. She had to put herself first, right?
Mm.
Well, yeah. So I mean, where I'm at, I mean, females are pretty much doing landscaping jobs. Some are doing construction jobs. I mean, it's been a real gender shift of how how labor is now like more and more females are joining the construction construction firms and the landscaping, and the
Well, I don't. That must be a liberal town thing because I don't see that down here.
oh
I don't see that here either.
Everybody who works in the oil fields and everything, those are all men, mostly TFLers.
I see where you're coming from.
You might see an occasional woman who's like really, really butch dyke like chick or something, like, you know,
Yeah.
Doc Martens and mullets and flannels.
I mean, but
you know,
feminism has taught females to really strike first and taking these male jobs. I mean, and it has worked. I'm not kidding. Where I'm at, you know.
That's crazy.
I mean,
that's really, and you know, the crazy thing is that men actually don't even care about that. You know, like men don't really care if a woman owns a house or has a great income or anything like that. But for some reason, these women are, you know, made to believe or grow up to believe that they have to achieve all these things that men have in order to become attractive. But it actually makes them less attractive, in my opinion. I wouldn't care if a woman is a CEO of a company or a street sweeper. If she's sweet and cute and nice, then I'm interested in her. You know?
yeah. I know.
Yeah.
There was a movie called North Country. Have you ever seen it, Steve?
No.
It was
North Country?
North Country. You can look it up on Google, but it was a movie about this white female, and she was in Minnesota in the 80s or whatnot, and she wanted to become a coal miner, but back then it was like forbidden for females to become coal miners back in Minnesota back in those times.
A coal miner in Minnesota?
Yeah.
They got the states all mixed up, man. I don't think there's no coal in Minnesota.
Hey, well, it is Hollywood, you know, they get everything wrong. So
It's called North Country, and it was anyway. What happened was is that she ends up becoming a coal miner, and now, well, the real story behind it was there was more female coal miners in Minnesota than men back in the late 80s.
Well, I'll bet you there was because there was no coal in Minnesota.
Yeah, you know.
no,
Well,
I
I've
get
never
what
been
you're
there,
saying
but
though.
I've never been to America, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just being smart ass because the reality is there is no coal in Minnesota. Okay, so, but, I understand Hollywood fed that lie to everybody, so.
Yeah.
There's no coal in Minnesota. I gotta check that out. I didn't
unless,
know that.
unless you want Coca-Cola.
There's no coal in Minnesota. Wow, I didn't know that. Oh, shit.
They pull the coal out of the mines, all right. Where do you think the mines are at? Up in the hills of the mountains.
But Toronto, so what were you? So you're saying that there were more female coal miners than males, or?
That's what the movie said, and but the when you watch the movie, it was more male coal miners than females, and they were trying to make out that the female coal miners were oppressed, and they were doing the men's job, and because they were doing the white man's job, they were getting sexually
And the
assaulted.
female coal miners probably became more miserable.
Well, maybe.
I don't really think there was ever much of a time where you had a whole lot of female construction workers or coal miners or females on an oil rig or anything like that.
Well, you know how that works.
There were a few.
Yeah,
The only
that's
woman
how
that works on an oil rig is a prostitute.
Warren, this is how it works.
Yeah.
If there's more than 2 women somewhere on an oil rig or in a coal mine across the whole world, there's an epidemic.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
But you know what I just think is that I think things can't go on like this. I think that inevitably there will be a collapse. I don't know about the the AI bots, the sex bots. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I just think there are going to be too many miserable women and too many miserable TFL incel men, and God knows that the whole institution of marriage, it can't go on the way it is now, because I just know too many men personally that are
no. These
miserable.
women aren't going to be TFL. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with these women as hypergamy continues to progress. When it progresses into the polygamous stage, right, at the beginning, it's going to be really good for them, right? And let me explain something too. Right now, women are primarily going for looks. Well, if the economy starts to tank, it's going to start going after money first, right? And start going after the wealthiest men. So they're not going to feel the pangs of the recession until it hits rock bottom. But what they're going to do is they're going to form these harems around these men, and it might start off going good for them at first. But bear in mind, these are the bloodlines that want to keep themselves pure. You can see this. It's almost like mirror of the way the elites think. You see this in the Mormons, say for example, their whole idea towards polygamy. They actually believe that they're inbreeding a superior race, and that's what they do. They inbreed because, let me explain something here to you, right? If only 20% of the men are monopolizing the entire goddamn womb for the next generation, that means that 20% of DNA is spread to the entire next generation.
Right.
And when they grow up and they start, having sexual relations, they're spreading that 20% DNA even further and further and further.
Until pretty soon you're having sex with your sister or your cousin.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that in Muslim societies and shit too.
Well,
I mean,
it does fit. It does fit, Warren, because it goes back to the Adam and Eve story. Because the story I was taught when I went to Sunday school as a kid is that God created earth, God created animal, then God created Adam. God took a rib from Adam and created Eve. Then we're the only two human beings on the face of the earth. And then I got thinking about it and says, really? So you're going to tell me these are the only two human beings on the face of the earth? They say, yeah. And I say, okay. So then Adam and Eve had fun. They had a baby. Then they had fun and again and had another baby. It was a girl. Brother and sister were doing it with each other and had kids. And then them kids are doing it with each other and had kids. So there we go. And then I had to question it and say, what if they were black? Where did I come from? What if they were Asian? Where did I come from?
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
there's a whole bunch of bullshit theories we're fed about how we got here. And to be honest with you, I mean, I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, maybe the elites do, but they're not telling us.
That would be the right answer.
yeah. Going back to the females living TFL logic, I'm seeing that now now where I'm at, I'm seeing there are females that are living TFL, as you can tell, because when they're going outside, they're always carrying their dogs and stuff like that. I don't know. That's probably.
I don't know. From my experience, a woman living in TFL as quote, she can't get a long-term commitment from she's a 310 woman who can't get a long-term commitment from a fucking 810 guy.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, and they can just take a pet dog is treated better than a fucking man. That's true.
No, but as funny as that might sound, it's true. When a woman can't find a man that doesn't meet her look standards and who is financially better off than her, she is, for all intents and purposes, TFL. In her mind, she is. It's true.
That's true. I believe
that it's really true.
But
yeah, but I mean, that's pretty pathetic, though, man. Really, when you think about it, it's almost like the analogy Blue Skies and Media gave in one of his more recent videos. He said that's like, if somebody's paying for you and giving you a place to stay, giving you letting you stay out of all these apartments and houses and stuff every night, right? And then you go to a homeless guy who's slept in a cardboard box in the fucking alleyway for every day for the past 10 years, and you start focusing about, oh yeah, but this isn't so good after all because there's always problems with bathrooms and some of these places have really ugly kitchens and da 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 da. My problem's worse than your problem. What would you, what would you think? I mean,
well, I understand where you're coming from, but it's true. That's how a woman thinks. Of course she does. I think it just has to do with women and men being so different. In a woman's eyes, she really is TFL. She can't lock down a handsome, financially well-off man. Then she's TFL.
That's just entitlement, though, bro. When she requires someone, to be, when she's so big on physical attraction, but yet, she requires the guy to be significantly more attractive than she is. I mean,
no, that's what you call self-produced TFL.
That is true. Yeah, it is self-produced.
I mean, there are females that do have speech disorders and they're kind of slow, but even like they can get some.
I don't even stop them, bro.
I know.
Toronto, would you date a woman who has a speech disorder?
Oh, for sure.
What if she was in a wheelchair?
Ooh.
Would you? If she's a cute girl, she's sweet and nice, but she's in a wheelchair, would you?
Well, you know what? I would have to answer that for him, okay? Because a lot of guys would say yes, and they would. But then let's turn the tables around. It's a nice, handsome Chad in a wheelchair. Oh, fuck, he's going to die alone.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Very few. Yeah. Oh, it's so messed up, to be honest. But Toronto, I think it's it is kind of it's pretty cool of you that you would actually date a girl with a speech disorder. I think I would too. I would be able to look past it.
Well,
I'm just wondering. How like yeah. Well, I was just saying that a lot of like there are, for example, like dating websites for like blind people and deaf people. Have you ever maybe looked into that? Isn't there like maybe a community where people with speech disorders can like get to know each other and possibly date?
I've never heard of it, but it probably would with a speech disorder, it's like even attractive males, there's like they said, like males are 80% of males today are attracted to like pretty much every single female, except for like probably like 5% of females are deemed unattractive to 80% of men these days. So it's like even a speech disorder of a lady could probably get a fucking child.
Yeah, these women aren't set back socially by disabilities or speech impediments or anything like that. They can still get men. They can still get men who mock the shit out of them.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's not hard at all, man. She could be flat out butt ugly and she has choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
She might not have as much choice as like the super hot supermodel chick, but she still has plenty enough choice that she's not going to go alone unless she chooses to.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of these women that come up complaining about they can't find nobody and they've turned down 100 guys. And I'm like, well, of course you can't. You reject everybody you see.
Well,
yeah, I know this woman. She's divorced. She has like 4 kids, and she basically told me straight up. She was like, look, I can't date a man shorter than me, and she herself is like 5'10", which is pretty tall for a woman. And then I asked her, well, you basically shrunk your potential dating pool down to like what 10%, because that basically means you need a guy who's 6 foot and taller. And when I confronted her with that, she basically just agreed with me. She was like, "Yeah, it's true. I have to have a guy taller than me." So it doesn't, in a woman's mind, it doesn't register the way it does with a man. You know, women just view it differently. They just don't see it as an option to date a man that's shorter, or they just don't see it as an option to date a man who has certain impediments.
Well,
And
I
it's
can't
messed
answer that
up.
one. There was a TV show called, I don't know, Mr. Big Little People, and there was this midget guy. I think his name was Josh. It was a reality TV show,
I remember that. Yeah,
and this
it's
midget
about this midget family, right?
exactly, but not all their kids were midgets though, you know. And this midget kid named Josh, he landed a average to average looking female. I mean, I'm not kidding. This midget guy named Josh. I mean, the female he had was average looking, and you know, and she's
But wasn't the wife a midget too?
yeah. No, a white average female with a midget named Josh.
I want to answer Chris Cood's question here. He said some of the feminist hatred for men partly be a result of sexual frustration because women are taught to pursue a career instead of a family, or worse, swear off men and become a lesbian. And he says, I'm just trying to figure out why so many women to hate men. The reason for that being, I said, it goes back to what we were just saying a few minutes ago, man. Like, in her mind, if she's a 310 woman and she can't get an 810 man locked down for a long-term commitment, then in her mind she thinks she's TFL. I mean, you know, she's upset because she can't get it because she can't lock down a man who's out of her league.
Well, I mean,
yeah, men don't even get to fuck women who are out of our league. She gets to fuck all kinds of men out of her league, all through her fucking teens and 20s.
You know, like what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of ugly white girls with black thugs. I don't know if you ever seen that.
Well, I got the cure, Warren. I know how the TFL guy, the butt ugly TFL guy, how he can score himself a 10. Okay, it's not hard at all. All she's got to do is have a weapon, some rope, a knife, and a getaway car.
Yeah. You know.
I know it's sad to say it that way, but in reality, that's what it would take, wouldn't it? You'd have to break all the laws and violate her rights. Okay, so it's just, and then it's gonna be nothing but hell anyhow. So why even go there? You're better off just, well, I think we're going asexual, you know.
Oh yeah, oh for sure, yeah. I mean, come to Toronto, Bill. Come to, or even New York. It's really bad over there too, you know. I mean,
people may not like hearing that, but that would be the reality, okay?
Yeah, but like Steve Hoka said this. Steve Hoka said once that, you know, if you go to like small white towns, you see like a increase of the white birth rate. He isn't wrong about that, but then you guys are saying that, you know, there's problems there too, you know. So it's like,
yeah, well, maybe she could get some blind. I like this last guy's comment, or be blind. I was like, well, maybe that'd be a good idea if you could get some number 10 woman who's blind as fucking bat, can't see shit.
Well, look, all I'm saying is that in smaller towns, I do believe it's a little bit easier, but I don't see that being the case for in the near future either anymore. I mean, because of internet and globalization and everything. So, I mean, it's still a little bit easier.
What's that?
You've seen this in the Howard Stern's movie Private Parts. They'll just fill his face, and then they'll find out, oh, he's ugly. I don't want to have to do with him. That's what they do.
Oh, well, that's
Howard Stern was TFL before he became famous.
So you know what you do then? You shove Brad Pitt. Shove Brad Pitt right in front of you right as she fills the face. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, well, guys, I gotta get going. I gotta work tomorrow actually. So, I just wanted to thank all of you guys. It was a real nice conversation, and yeah, maybe I'll call in some other time.
Hey, yeah,
So,
well, I appreciate having you here, Steve, but I'm probably gonna get out of here myself since I'm 2 hours and a little over 2.5 hours in. It's a pretty long live stream, so
yeah.
but I definitely
Well,
appreciated having you on, and I thank Mr. Toronto man there, and definitely thank Warren for jumping on in here.
Oh,
yeah, Toronto
it was
man,
a
I
pleasure.
know you must
It was
be
a
I know
pleasure.
you must be having it tough up there, man. Like I can imagine it's not easy, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, yeah. I mean,
But you gotta hang in there, man. You know.
I know, like, I guess you could say like Houston's pretty much like Toronto over there, you know, Houston, that big ass town.
Houston.
Houston.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's bad there too. I'm not in
Yeah.
Houston, but I'm 4 hours outside of Houston, but it's bad there. It's bad in every big city. So,
Yep.
That's true.
Well, hey
but
guys,
just be grateful that you're not in a TFLer within a marriage because that's even worse.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So it could be worse.
If you're
Man.
getting cooked every night, you know you're stuck forced in a situation where your wife's in the next room banging some other guy, and
A simple.
Oh,
Okay. One last
that's the
question.
epitome of TFL.
Yep. Chris asked one last question. What is a simp?
A simp is somebody who pays for dates, pays for sex.
That's right. Bends over.
that's a very specific example. That's not really the definition. A simp is somebody who basically is a very emasculated guy who cowers to women, who's
yeah.
basically a really pussy whip sort of guy.
He's a
In
slave.
my opinion, a simp is a man who doesn't have any self-respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with that being
Let's just
said,
keep it at that.
let's keep it at that. And hey, thanks, Warren. Thanks, guys. I'm getting out of here. You all have a good night.
Okay, bye.
You too.
All right. Good
Bye
night.
bye.
Peace.
Bye.